My wife secretly recorded me crying and sent it to her friends for fun. Now everyone thinks I'm pathetic. It happened on a Tuesday night, one of those quiet evenings when everything seems fine on the surface, but you can feel something heavy lingering in the air. I was sitting in bed, staring blankly at my phone, trying to keep my breathing steady. It had been a bad day. Work had been brutal, my mom's health was getting worse, and I was drowning under pressure I couldn't talk to anyone about. Except, I thought I could talk to my wife, Lena. We'd been together for 6 years, married for 3. She was supposed to be my safe place, my anchor. But lately, something had been off. She laughed more on her phone than she did with me. She stayed up late, chatting with friends, but locked her phone when I walked by. When I asked what was wrong, she'd roll her eyes and say, "God, you're paranoid. Stop overthinking everything." So that night, when it all came crashing down, when I finally broke, I thought she'd be there for me. Instead, she turned me into a joke. It started around midnight. I'd just gotten off the phone with my sister, who told me mom's condition had worsened. She might need surgery, expensive surgery, and the insurance wasn't going to cover it all. When I hung up, I felt something inside me just break. I sat on the edge of the bed, head in my hands, trying not to fall apart. But I couldn't stop it. The tears came, the kind that burn your eyes and make your chest hurt. I tried to muffle the sounds so Lena wouldn't wake up. Except she did. "Hey," she said softly, still half asleep. "You okay?" I nodded, but the tears kept coming. "It's Mom. She's not doing well. I don't know what to do." She sighed and rolled over. "You'll figure it out, babe. Don't stress too much." That was it. No hoop, no comfort. Just a casual, sleepy dismissal. I bit my lip, turned away, and cried quietly into my pillow until I fell asleep. The next morning, she acted normal, cheerful even. She kissed me on the cheek before leaving for work, said she'd pick up groceries on her way home. I tried to brush off the weird feeling in my gut. Until that afternoon, when my coworker Eli stopped by my desk with a strange look on his face. "Hey man," he said carefully. "You okay?" Yeah. What?" He hesitated. "It's just, something's going around in the group chat." "What group chat?" He scratched his neck awkwardly. "You didn't hear? Lena's friends posted something on Instagram. A story, I think. Someone screen recorded it before it was deleted." My heart sank. "What are you talking about?" He opened his phone, scrolled, and then handed it to me. It was a video of me, in bed, crying. The camera was shaky, like it had been filmed secretly from across the room. You could see me sitting on the edge of the bed, head in my hands, trying to keep quiet. And in the background, you could hear Lena giggling. She whispered something like, "Look at this, he's literally crying like a baby. Poor guy can't handle life." Her friends' usernames were tagged with laughing emojis. I felt the blood drain from my face. "Who recorded this?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. Eli's voice was quiet. "It was her, man. She sent it to her friend group. One of them must have leaked it." I handed his phone back, my hands trembling. "Thanks for telling me." The rest of the day was a blur. I couldn't focus. Every notification made me flinch. Every laugh in the office made me wonder if they'd seen it too. By the time I got home, I wasn't angry yet, just numb. Lena was in the kitchen making dinner, humming along to music. She looked up and smiled like nothing had happened. "Hey babe, how was work?" I stared at her, my voice cold. "Why did you record me crying?" Her face froze. "What?" "You heard me," I said, stepping closer. "You filmed me last night while I was breaking down, and you sent it to your friends." She blinked, her smile fading. "Who told you that?" "Doesn't matter. It's true, isn't it?" Her lips parted. It was just a joke. I didn't think you'd find out." "A joke?" My voice cracked. "You thought it was funny to humiliate me when I was at my lowest?" "It wasn't like that," she said defensively. "You're being dramatic." That word, dramatic, set something off inside me. "Do you even hear yourself?" I said, my voice shaking. "You filmed your husband crying and shared it like it was entertainment." "It was private," she shot back. "It wasn't meant for everyone." "Oh, so that makes it better?" I snapped. "You sent it to people who laugh at me behind my back. and now it's all over social media. Her face twisted. God, you're overreacting. Everyone cries. It's not that deep. I took a step back, trying to breathe. You broke my trust, Lena. You turned something intimate into a joke. She crossed her arms. Well, maybe if you didn't act so pathetic, people wouldn't laugh. That was it. Something in me shattered. I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I just walked away. I grabbed my keys, my wallet, and left. I drove aimlessly for hours. No music, no destination. Just the sound of the road and my thoughts eating me alive. How could she do that? This was the woman who held my hand through job rejections, who told me she loved my vulnerability. And yet the moment I showed her real pain, she weaponized it. By the time I checked into a cheap motel that night, I felt hollow. I turned off my phone, laid down on the stiff bed, and stared at the ceiling until morning. When I finally turned my phone back on, I had 32 missed messages from Lena. Babe, please answer. I didn't mean it like that. It was just a stupid joke, I swear. Please come home. People are saying awful things about me now. That last message made me laugh bitterly. She was worried about her reputation, not my pain. I didn't reply. The next day, I got a text from one of her friends, Maya, someone I'd always thought was decent. Hey, I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I wanted you to know I'm sorry. I didn't realize how bad that video was until it leaked. I told Lena to delete it. She was laughing, but I didn't think she'd actually post it anywhere. For what it's worth, most of us think she crossed a serious line. That message broke me more than anything else, because it confirmed that it wasn't just a private share. Lena had posted it somewhere, probably to her close friend's story on Instagram, where she liked to share funny things about her life. Except this time, the joke was me. When I finally went home that weekend to collect some clothes, she was waiting at the door. Her eyes were red and puffy. Please, she said, reaching for me. Can we just talk? I didn't move. About what? How you destroyed my dignity for laughs. She shook her head. I swear I didn't mean to hurt you. It was one of those stupid impulsive things. I didn't think it through. That's the problem, I said quietly. You never think things through when it comes to me. Tears welled in her eyes. I'll delete all my social media. I'll apologize to everyone. Just please don't leave. I wanted to believe her. I really did. But the image of that video wouldn't leave my head. Me crying, her laughing, her friends spamming laughing emojis. Some things you just can't forgive. I packed my things in silence. She followed me around the apartment, crying and pleading, but I didn't respond. When I closed the door behind me, I felt an odd mix of grief and relief. Grief for what we'd lost. Relief that I was finally free of someone who saw my pain as content. The following week, I moved in with my sister temporarily. Word spread fast among family and friends. Everyone wanted to know why we'd split. I didn't tell them first. I didn't want to relive it. But then I got another message, this time from a random account on Instagram. Bro, that crying video? That's you, right? Damn, couldn't be me. My stomach twisted. She hadn't deleted it. Someone had re-uploaded it elsewhere. That was the moment I knew I couldn't stay quiet anymore. I posted a single statement on my private account. For everyone asking about the video, yes, it's real. Yes, it was recorded by my wife without my knowledge while I was grieving my mother's illness. No, it's not funny. Please think before you share or laugh at someone's lowest moment. The post blew up. Friends flooded my DMs with support. Even strangers messaged me saying they'd been through similar betrayals. Lena, meanwhile, went silent. Within days, her accounts disappeared entirely. But the damage was already done to both of us. When Mom passed away a month later, Lena showed up at the funeral. She stood in the back, eyes red, clutching a small bouquet of white lilies. After the service, she walked up to me slowly. "I'm so sorry," she whispered, "for everything." I nodded, but I couldn't look at her, because every time I did, I didn't see the woman I married. I saw the phone camera lens pointed at me when I was broken. A few months later, I filed for divorce. The process was long, messy, and painful, but necessary. She begged for forgiveness, sent letters, promised she'd changed, but I couldn't go back. Because forgiveness doesn't erase humiliation. It doesn't unshare a video that the internet will never fully delete. It doesn't rebuild the safety that laughter took away. Now, a year later, I'm learning how to be okay again. I still flinch when I hear laughter behind me. I still sleep with my phone turned off. But I've also learned something powerful. That vulnerability isn't weakness. That men are allowed to cry, to feel, to fall apart. And if anyone tries to make you feel small for being human, they're the real joke. It had been almost 5 months since the divorce papers were filed. 5 long, quiet, empty months. I was finally beginning to feel like myself again, or at least like someone trying to build a new version of himself. Therapy was helping. My sister's support was constant. And though I still woke up sometimes with that dull ache in my chest, I'd learned how to breathe through it. Then one morning, it all came flooding back. I woke up to my phone buzzing nonstop on the nightstand. At first, I thought it was spam, but when I checked, there were over 100 new notifications on Instagram, Twitter, and even TikTok. At the top of my feed was a video of Lena. She was sitting in a softly lit room, makeup perfect, voice trembling just enough to seem sincere. The title? My public apology to the man I hurt. My blood ran cold. I clicked it, half in disbelief, half in dread. Hey, everyone, she began, sniffling. I've been off social media for a while to reflect on the mistakes I've made. I want to address something very painful. The video I posted last year of my ex-husband crying. She paused dramatically, wiping a tear. At the time, I thought I was being funny. I didn't realize how deeply I hurt him. I've learned so much since then about empathy, mental health, and how men struggle too. My jaw clenched. She went on, her voice breaking. If you're watching this, you know who you are. I'm sorry. Truly, you didn't deserve that humiliation. I just hope you can find it in your heart to forgive me one day. The video faded out with soft piano music and text that read, "Let's break the stigma around men's emotions." It ended with a hashtag. Hashtag healing together. I stared at the screen in silence. The video had over 2 million views in less than 24 hours. And the comments. This is so powerful. We all make mistakes. She's owning hers. Queen energy. Turning pain into purpose. You're forgiven, girl. Red heart. Not one mention of me. Not one acknowledgement that my life had been destroyed by her mistake. She wasn't apologizing. She was performing, turning my humiliation into her redemption arc. I scrolled further and saw she tagged several mental health influencers and even started a podcast, Healing with Lena. The bio read, "Former toxic wife turned advocate for emotional honesty." I nearly laughed, the kind of bitter, hollow laugh that comes from disbelief. I sent the video to my sister. She replied immediately, "You gotta be kidding me. She's monetizing your pain now? Do not let this slide." But what could I do? If I called her out publicly, it would look like bitterness. If I stayed silent, she got to keep rewriting the story. For 2 days, I tried to ignore it. Then, on the 3rd day, I got an email. From Healing with Lena podcast. It read, "Hi, my name. I'm reaching out as part of our upcoming podcast series, Redemption Through Accountability. Lena would like to formally apologize to you live on air. She wants to share both sides of the story, heal publicly, and raise awareness about forgiveness. Would you be open to joining her for a recorded conversation? Best, Kayla, production assistant, Healing with Lena." I had to read it 3 times to believe it. She wanted to apologize publicly, not privately, not sincerely, but on her new podcast. I didn't respond right away, but the more I thought about it, the more something inside me hardened. If she wanted public healing, she was about to get it, just not the kind she expected. I replied simply, "Sure, I'll come on the podcast. Let's talk." 2 weeks later, I walked into a small studio in downtown Portland. The producer greeted me politely, offering coffee, giving the whole "we're so honored you're here" spiel. Lena was already there, sitting at the table, wearing soft beige and pastel colors. Her new gentle soul aesthetic. When she saw me, she stood up awkwardly. "Hey, thank you for coming." I nodded. "You wanted this, right? So let's do it." Her eyes darted away. The camera started rolling. The intro music faded, and she smiled sadly into the lens. Welcome back to Healing with Lena. Today's episode is deeply personal. I'm sitting down with someone I've hurt, someone whose story deserves to be heard. Then she turned to me. "Thank you for being here." I looked straight at her, calm but cold. "Sure, I just figured if we're going to talk about healing, we should talk about honesty too." She blinked. "Of course, that's what this is all about." She launched into her script, talking about her journey of self-awareness, her therapy, her growth. Every word was polished, rehearsed. Then she turned to me, voice trembling. "Do you forgive me?" The room went quiet. Everyone, the cameraman, the producer, waited. I leaned closer to the mic and said, slowly, "No, not yet." You could hear the air leave the room. Her expression faltered. I understand." I nodded. "You don't get to demand forgiveness on your schedule. You humiliated me in front of thousands of people, and now you're building a brand off pretending to fix it." Her face went pale. "That's not what this is." I cut her off. "You didn't apologize because you cared. You apologized because your followers started forgetting about you." She froze. I kept going. Forgiveness isn't content. Healing isn't a podcast episode. And if you truly meant a single word you said, you'd have reached out in private, not under studio lighting with cameras rolling. The producer gestured nervously for her to respond, but she was speechless. Her lips trembled. "I was just trying to do something good with it." "Good," I said quietly. "You destroyed my privacy, Lena. You made people laugh at me for crying, and now you want to profit from pretending to care. You turned my lowest moment into your storyline twice." Silence. Even the crew looked uncomfortable. Finally, I looked at the camera. "You want to raise awareness? Fine, let me help." I took a deep breath. If anyone watching this thinks it's okay to record your partner, post their pain, and then apologize when it hurts your image, don't. That's not healing. That's manipulation. Then I stood up. "We're done here." And I walked off set. The clip went viral overnight. Not her version, mine. Someone on the crew must have leaked the full, unedited footage. By morning, it had over 10 million views across TikTok and YouTube. The comments were brutal. She wanted redemption, got reality. He handled that like a king. This is what accountability actually looks like. Healing doesn't come with a camera crew. Her podcast page was flooded with backlash. Sponsors pulled out. Her followers dropped in droves. And for the first time since everything started, the truth was finally on my side. A week later, she emailed me. "I deserve that. I don't expect forgiveness anymore. But thank you for reminding me what honesty actually looks like." I didn't reply. Not out of spite. Just peace. Some wounds don't need more words, just silence. Months passed. Her podcast faded into obscurity. She disappeared from social media entirely. Meanwhile, I kept rebuilding. Therapy, journaling, long walks in the rain that used to remind me of sadness, but now just made me feel alive again. And one night, while sitting on my porch, watching the rain fall, I realized something. Forgiveness wasn't for her. It was for me. I didn't need her to acknowledge my pain anymore, because I'd already faced it, owned it, and turned it into strength. Sometimes people say, time heals everything. It doesn't. Honesty does. Acceptance does. Closure does. And when you finally stop needing to prove your pain to anyone else, that's when you're free. If you're listening to this and you've ever been humiliated, betrayed, or made to feel small by someone who claimed to love you, just remember this. You don't need revenge to move on. You just need to outgrow the version of you that let them hurt you. And when you do, they lose the power they thought they had forever. That's when healing really starts. And that's when you finally get your peace back. Subscribe if you believe some stories deserve to be heard, not performed. The night my wife's business trip ended at my front door, and so did our marriage. It started the way storms do, with silence. For 3 days, my wife hadn't answered a single call. No texts. No, I love you. Not even the little heart emoji she used to drop before bed. She was supposed to be on a corporate retreat 2 states away. A 4-day conference on leadership and team synergy. I believed her. Why wouldn't I? We've been married 8 years. We'd built a home full of laughter, a rhythm of morning coffees, and shared playlists. She'd been my calm in every chaos. Until this week. The first red flag came on a Tuesday night. I called her after work just to hear her voice. The phone rang once, twice, then went straight to voicemail. Probably busy, I'd told myself. But the next morning, my coworker Jenna, whose husband worked at the same company, mentioned something strange over lunch. Weird, isn't it? Marketing didn't get invited to that retreat this year. The fork froze halfway to my mouth. Wait, what retreat? I asked. The leadership one in Seattle. It's only for the directors now. They cut the budget. But my wife wasn't a director. She worked in marketing. My stomach dropped. That night, I tried calling again. Voicemail. I texted. Hey babe, just checking in. Hope your sessions are going well. No reply. Hours later, I was pacing the living room. The rain outside had turned heavy, tapping against the windows like it knew something I didn't. Finally, at 11:47 p.m., a text appeared. Sorry, long day. Going to bed now. Love you. 3 sentences. No heart. No words. It didn't sound like her at all. By Friday morning, I was done pretending everything was fine. I called her office. Hi, this is Daniel. I'm looking for Megan. The receptionist paused. Oh, Megan's out this week. Vacation, right? My throat went dry. Vacation. Yeah, she mentioned she needed a break. Good for her, honestly. I hung up without another word. Vacation, not a retreat, not a conference, just gone. For the next 12 hours, I sat in my car in the driveway, staring at the rain, running every scenario through my head. Maybe she was overwhelmed. Maybe she needed space. Maybe. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. You deserve to know the truth. Attached was a photo. My wife, at a restaurant, laughing across a candlelit table with a man I'd never seen before. The caption read, "They've been together for months." My entire world tilted. I didn't sleep that night. By morning, I traced the photo's location, a small bistro downtown. I drove there before it opened, parked across the street, and waited. At 9:15, a black sedan pulled up. Megan stepped out, wearing the same beige trench coat she'd worn the night we first met. And the man beside her, tall, sharp-jawed, the kind of polished confidence that screamed corporate charm, held her hand as they walked inside. She looked happy, carefree, like I'd never existed. I sat there, frozen, until the rain blurred everything. Then I took a picture, not for revenge, for proof, because part of me still needed to believe I wasn't losing my mind. When she finally came home that night, she looked surprised to see me awake. Hey, she said carefully, hanging her coat. I didn't think you'd still be up. I didn't answer. Just turned my phone toward her, the photo glowing between us. The color drained from her face. Daniel, I can explain. Don't, I said quietly. I spent 3 days trying to explain it for you. She swallowed hard. It's not what it looks like. Then what is it? She opened her mouth, closed it, then sank into the nearest chair. Finally, she whispered, "His name's Evan. He's my boss." I laughed. A bitter, sharp sound. Of course he is. It started months ago, she admitted. I didn't plan it. I swear. I just felt seen again. Seen. I repeated. Megan, I've been right here. Tears welled in her eyes. You stopped looking at me like you used to. I tried to tell you, but you were always busy. So your solution was to replace me? She covered her face, sobbing. It was a mistake. I ended it this week. That trip, it was me trying to figure out how to tell you. I wanted to believe her, but the photo burned in my hand like proof of every lie. Hours passed. No shouting. No slam doors. Just 2 strangers sitting in the ruins of something they both built. Finally, she whispered, "Do you hate me?" I stared at her for a long time. "I don't know yet," I said, "but I don't trust you." She nodded slowly, like she already knew. And in that quiet, something inside me finally broke. 2 weeks later, she moved out. I didn't stop her. The house felt different, bigger, colder. Every room echoed with memories I didn't want anymore. I started therapy. I told myself time would dull it. But some nights, I still saw that photo when I closed my eyes. Then one evening, months later, a letter showed up. No return address, just my name. Inside was a single sheet of paper, handwritten. "You were right about everything." I thought I was finding myself, but I was just running from the version of me that didn't know how to be honest. I lost the only person who ever saw me clearly. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry for all of it. Megan. I sat there for a long time, staring at the ink. It didn't hurt the way I thought it would. It just felt final. But endings, I've learned, aren't always loud. Sometimes they're a quiet acceptance, a small breath that says, "I survived," and maybe that's enough for now. It had been 7 months since the divorce papers were signed. 7 months since I last heard Megan's voice. But her ghost was everywhere. In the playlist I couldn't skip. In the kitchen drawer that still held one of her hair ties. In the scent of her old lavender candle, faintly clinging to the air whenever I came home too late. I thought healing would feel cleaner, like a straight line forward. But healing, I learned, is messy. It's quiet mornings that feel okay, followed by nights that pull you back into every moment you swore you'd forgotten. That's how it was, until she showed up again. It was a Sunday evening. I'd just come back from a run, drenched in sweat and exhaustion. And there she was, standing at the edge of my porch, hands tucked into her jacket, eyes red from crying. "Megan," I said, disbelief coating my voice. She gave a small, broken smile. "Hey, Danny." No one had called me that in months. For a moment, I just stared at her, the woman I once promised forever to, looking smaller, softer, like the guilt had hollowed her out. "What are you doing here?" I asked finally. She hesitated. "I just want to talk. Please." I should have said no. I wanted to say no, but something in me, curiosity, closure, or maybe just that leftover ache, stepped aside. I nodded toward the door. "Come in." The silence inside the house was thick. I noticed her eyes flicker around, taking in the emptiness, the walls stripped bare, the couch replaced, the photo frames gone. "You redecorated," she murmured. "I removed the ghosts," I said flatly. She winced. "Fair." We stood there for a long time, neither of us sure how to start a conversation built on the ashes of what used to be love. Finally, she spoke. "I heard about your dad," she said softly. "I am sorry." My throat tightened. Dad had passed 2 months ago after a long fight with cancer. She hadn't called. She hadn't texted. But she knew. "Thanks," I said quietly. "He went peacefully." She nodded, her eyes wet. "He was always so kind to me." I almost laughed. "He liked you more than he liked me." She smiled weakly. "Yeah, I know." Then the air shifted. We both felt it. I leaned back against the counter. "So why are you really here, Megan?" She took a deep breath. "Because I need to tell you something. Something I didn't have the courage to say before." I crossed my arms. "You've already said sorry. This isn't about that," she whispered. "It's about what happened after." She hesitated, then continued. "Evan, the guy you saw me with, he wasn't just my boss. He was manipulative, controlling. At first, he made me feel special, like I mattered. But then he turned everything dark. He'd track where I went, check my phone, threatened to ruin my job if I ever left." I blinked, unsure what to say. "I tried to leave him," she said, voice trembling. "But he made sure I couldn't. I lost my job because of him. My friends stopped talking to me. He isolated me completely. When I finally got out, I realized I had nowhere to go." She looked up at me then, eyes swollen, desperate. "I didn't come here for forgiveness, Daniel. I came because I needed to see someone who once knew me before I became this." Her words hit something I wasn't ready for. Anger, pity, grief, all tangled together. Megan, you lied to me. You cheated on me. You broke every piece of trust one had. I know, she whispered, and I'll regret it for the rest of my life. Then why tell me this now? Because I needed to give you the truth before it gets rewritten by my guilt. You deserve that much. We sat down at the table. The same table where we once ate dinner laughing about dumb sitcoms and vacation plans. Now, it was just two broken people clinging to what was left of decency. I asked, do you still love him? Her eyes filled again. No, I don't even love who I was with him. Do you love me? She looked away. I'll always love you, but I know I don't deserve to. That silence after was heavier than any argument we'd ever had. Later that night, I made tea, out of habit more than kindness, and we sat in the living room like ghosts sharing old air. Do you ever think we could have made it work? She asked suddenly. I thought for a long time. Maybe, I said, if honesty had come before damage. She nodded slowly. That's fair. And she whispered something that broke me a little. You were the only person who ever made me feel safe. I just didn't know what to do with that. After she left that night, the house didn't feel heavy anymore. It felt quiet, peaceful even. I didn't text her. She didn't call. It was as if we'd finally both accepted what the other needed. Distance. For the first time in years, I slept without seeing her face. Months passed again. The pain dulled into something smaller. Not gone, just manageable. I started dating casually. Nothing serious. Then one morning, I got a message from an unknown number. Hey Danny, I'm leaving town for good. Starting over somewhere new. I just wanted to thank you for not hating me when you had every reason to. I hope you find someone who never makes you question love. I stared at it for a while, then typed back. I don't hate you anymore. I just hope you learn to love yourself first. She didn't reply. Years later, I saw her again by accident. I was at a cafe with my fiancée, Emily. We'd been together 2 years by then. She was gentle, grounded. Everything my past had fractured in me. And across the street, I saw Megan. She looked different, older, calmer. There was a little boy beside her, maybe 5 or 6. She held his hand, smiling at something he said. When our eyes met, there was no pain, no resentment, just understanding. She smiled softly. I smiled back. Then she turned, crossed the street, and disappeared into the crowd. That night, Emily asked what was wrong. Nothing, I said truthfully. Just ran into an old friend. And as I said it, I realized it was true. Megan was no longer my wound. She was a chapter I'd already closed. Life moved forward. But every now and then, when the rain hits the window just right, I remember that week. The lies, the heartbreak, the silence that followed. And I don't feel bitterness anymore. Just gratitude. Because that pain taught me the hardest truth of all. Sometimes, the people who destroy you aren't villains. They're just broken people trying not to drown, even if they pull you under while they're fighting to breathe. And that night, the night she stood on my porch again, wasn't a tragedy. It was the beginning of my peace. Subscribe for more stories like this. Real emotions, real endings, and truths that hit harder when whispered, not shouted. My dad always said that blood is thicker than water. But when it came time to choose between my peace and my family, that saying didn't feel so comforting anymore. I'm 28, and for most of my life, I've been the one who keeps the peace. I'm the reasonable one in the family. The person who gets the calls when someone's mad. The one who listens, apologizes, fixes things, even when it's not my fault. They used to make me proud. But lately, it just makes me tired. My younger sister, Emily, is 24. She's wild, loud, always been a bit dramatic. We used to be close, but after she moved back home last year, things started to unravel. She lost her job, had a messy breakup, and started leaning on everyone, mostly me. I didn't mind helping at first, but it slowly became my entire life. She'd call me crying because she couldn't afford rent. I paid for it. She needed groceries, gas money, therapy sessions. I covered them all. My parents praised me for being such a supportive sibling, while Emily started acting like I owed her everything. One night, she called me out of nowhere, sobbing, Said she'd been kicked out by her roommate and needed a crash at my place. I lived in a small one-bedroom apartment, but I couldn't say no. She showed up with 6 trash bags full of clothes, 3 suitcases, and her cat. I remember staring at her stuff in my hallway thinking, how long is she planning to stay? She said, just a week or 2. It's been 5 months. At first, it wasn't awful. She helped with dishes sometimes, made breakfast on weekends, and kept me company. But as time went on, she stopped trying. The apartment became chaos. Clothes everywhere, cat litter on the floor, dishes piled up. I'd come home from work exhausted and find her watching Netflix, eating takeout with my credit card, and saying things like, "You're doing so well, you can afford it." Every time I tried to bring it up, she'd cry, "You don't understand what I'm going through." Or, "You're all I have." And then my parents would call me, saying, "You know how fragile Emily is right now. Don't push her too hard." So I shut up. Then came the birthday incident. I've been planning a small dinner with a few close friends, something peaceful. I told Emily she could come if she wanted to, but she said she was too tired. So imagine my shock when I walked into the restaurant and saw her sitting there with my parents, my ex-boyfriend, and several people I hadn't seen in years. She'd throw me a surprise party, except it wasn't for me. It was about her. She stood up and gave this speech about how family sticks together and how she wouldn't be here if it weren't for her amazing sister. But the entire time, she made it sound like she was the one helping me. Everyone clapped. My parents were crying. And my ex, the one who dumped me because he said I was too focused on family, just smirked across the table like he'd been proven right. When I confronted her later, she got defensive. "You're so ungrateful." I tried to do something nice. We ended up screaming at each other, and she called me a selfish bitch who can't handle being loved. The next morning, I told her I wanted her to move out by the end of the month. She acted shocked, like I just told her she was being abandoned. "You're seriously kicking me out? After everything I've been through?" I said, "I can't keep doing this. I'm tired, Emily. I need my space back." She cried for hours. Then she called our parents, who immediately called me, furious. My mom said, "She's your sister. You can't just throw her out like some stranger." My dad said, "You're supposed to take care of family." And Emily? She posted some cryptic message online about how some people only love you when you're useful. Within a day, half my extended family was texting me, saying I'd gone too far, that I was cold and heartless. Even my aunt said, "You don't treat blood like that." So I started questioning myself. Maybe I'm the asshole. Maybe I should have been more patient. But then, that night, I came home to find that she'd taken my favorite jacket, the one I saved up for months to buy, and left cat vomit all over the couch. She wasn't even home. Just a note saying, "You'll miss me when I'm gone." That's when I finally stopped crying. I sat on the floor, surrounded by her mess, and thought, no, I won't. Still, everyone in my family thinks I'm cruel for asking her to leave. My mom even said, "She'll end up on the street if you don't help." But I feel like if I keep helping her, I'm the one who'll end up broken. So, am I the asshole for kicking out my sister when my entire family says I'm wrong? When I got back home that night, I didn't even turn the lights on. I sat in the dark, replaying everything in my mind like a broken record. My wife's voice, the man's laugh, that cheap cologne he wore that somehow still lingered on my shirt because I'd brushed past him while storming out. I wanted to scream. But more than that, I wanted answers. The next morning, I didn't talk to her. She acted like nothing happened. Made coffee, hummed in the kitchen, smiled when she saw me, like I hadn't watched her world crumble the night before. She said, "Morning, babe," as if those words still meant something. I sat there, silent, until she asked why I was being so quiet. That's when I told her. I know. Her smile disappeared instantly. She froze, mug still halfway to her lips. "I know everything," I said, my voice calm, too calm. At first, she tried to play dumb. She asked what I meant, but when she saw the look on my face, she dropped the act. Tears welled up. She started apologizing, rambling, saying it was a mistake, saying she didn't mean for it to happen. I just stared at her. How long? I asked. She hesitated. That hesitation told me everything before she even spoke. 6 months. 6 months. That number echoed in my head like a gunshot. She begged me to understand, to forgive. Said she felt lonely. Said I'd been distant. Said she thought I didn't love her anymore. That's the thing cheaters always do. They twist it. They turn their betrayal into your failure. I stood up and told her to pack a bag. She looked confused. I repeated myself, slower. Pack a bag. She started crying harder, asking if I was kicking her out. I said no. I wasn't kicking her out. I was leaving. That stunned her. Where will you go? She asked. Anywhere you're not. That was the last thing I said before I walked out the door. For the next few weeks, I stayed at a friend's place. She kept texting, calling, begging me to talk. Said she'd change. Said she'd end things. Said she'd do therapy. Said she loved me. I ignored every message, every call. Then one day, she showed up at my workplace. My coworkers saw her crying at the front desk, begging to talk to me. I pulled her outside, embarrassed. She said she'd ended it with a guy. Said she was broken without me. She said she couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, couldn't live knowing she'd lost me. And for a moment, I almost believed her. But then, that night, my friend showed me a picture he'd found online from the guy's social media. A photo of them together 2 days earlier. That was it. I snapped. I didn't yell this time. I didn't send her an angry text or call her out. I did something else. Something quiet. Something calculated. I knew the guy's workplace. He worked at a car dealership. I went there the next morning and acted like a customer. Walked straight up to his boss, shook his hand, and told him I had proof that one of his employees was sleeping with a married woman on company property. It was true. She told me once that they'd met behind the dealership after hours. I handed him screenshots of their messages and photos she'd sent. Her boss thanked me, said he'd handle it. That night, the guy called me, screaming. He'd been fired. I didn't say a word. I just listened to his anger, his panic, his begging. Then, before hanging up, I said, "Now you know how it feels to lose something you thought was yours forever." My wife found out later that week. She came to my friend's place again, furious, crying, shouting. Said I'd ruined his life. "You ruined mine first," I said. She tried to guilt trip me. Said I'd gone too far, that revenge wouldn't fix anything. But it did fix something. It fixed me. I finally felt like I'd taken my power back. Months went by. I moved into a small apartment on the other side of town. Started therapy. Started going to the gym again. Started sleeping peacefully for the first time in years. She still texted occasionally. Birthdays, anniversaries, random messages about missing what we had. I never replied. Then, one day, she sent me a message that stopped me cold. She said she was pregnant. My chest tightened. My mind raced. I asked whose it was. She said she didn't know. That's when everything I'd been holding together started to fall apart again. She begged me to come talk. I went, against my better judgment. When I got there, she looked different, weaker, like the guilt had eaten away at her. She said she'd broken up with him for good, that she wanted to rebuild her life. Said she didn't want anything from me except forgiveness. But then she said something that made my blood boil. She said, "If it's yours, I'll name him after you." That was the last time I ever saw her. I walked out of that house, blocked her number, changed mine a week later. She left town a few months after that. Years later, 2 years to be exact, I got a letter in the mail. No return address. It was from her. She said she'd had a son. She said he had my eyes. She said she wanted me to meet him someday. I burned the letter because I realized something that day. Closure doesn't come from confrontation. It comes from walking away and refusing to let the person who destroyed you keep renting space in your soul. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't heartbroken anymore. I was free. I never found out who the father was. And honestly, I don't care. All I know is that the version of me who walked out of that house years ago, the one who'd been betrayed, humiliated, broken, he died that night. The man who replaced him, he learned something most people never do. Sometimes revenge isn't about hurting someone else. It's about taking back control of your story. And that's exactly what I did. If you've ever been betrayed, don't waste your time begging for apologies or understanding. People who can break you once will always try to do it again. The best revenge is peace, and peace is silent. If you're still here, listening, thank you. Subscribe, not for me, but for yourself, so you remember you're not alone in any of this. He betrayed me with my own sister, and thought I'd never find out. When people talk about betrayal, they usually imagine strangers or distant friends. But when it comes from someone who shares your blood, that's the kind of wound that never really heals. My name's Daniel, and up until last year, I thought I had the perfect life. A stable job, a fiancé who made every morning feel like a new beginning, and a little sister who I'd practically raised after our parents died. Her name's Emily, 7 years younger than me. She was the shy one, the sweet one, the kid who used to sit on my shoulders during fireworks shows and hide behind me when she was scared. I promised her I'd always protect her, and then one day, I had to protect myself from her. It started with little things that don't scream betrayal at first, just whisper it. My fiancée, Rachel, started going out more often, saying she was meeting friends or shopping. Emily, who lived in the same apartment, building a few floors below, suddenly became more secretive too. I remember one night, I came home early from work, a Friday. Rachel was supposed to be at yoga. Emily texted saying she was at a study group. But as I walked through the lobby, I saw a familiar car parked right outside. Rachel's. At first, I thought maybe she'd dropped something off for Emily. I went up to her floor, knocked on her door, and waited. No answer. I knocked again. Still nothing. Something told me to just try the handle. It wasn't locked. When I pushed the door open, the sound that hit me first wasn't laughter. It was silence. Then a gasp. A whisper. The creak of a bedsheet. I froze. I didn't even have to walk all the way in. I saw just enough through the half-open bedroom door. Rachel's clothes on the floor. Emily's voice saying, "He's going to find out." That was the moment my heart stopped. I walked out quietly, shut the door, and left. I didn't confront them right away. I couldn't. My hands were shaking so bad that I could barely hold my phone. I sat in my car, engine off, just breathing, trying not to vomit. How do you even process something like that? Your lover and your sister, the two people you trusted most in the world, together. For the next week, I acted normal. I smiled. I went to work. I even made dinner for Rachel. But inside, I was planning. I needed to be sure. I needed proof. Because when you love someone that deeply, your brain tries to convince you you're wrong, that you misunderstood, that it couldn't be true. So, I got a small audio recorder from a tech store and hid it under Emily's couch. I told her I was dropping by to fix her Wi-Fi. She hugged me. The same hug she used to give me as a kid. I almost broke right there. 2 days later, I went back when she was out and took the recorder. What I heard that night, I'll never forget it. Rachel's voice, Emily laughing, both of them talking about me, about how it started as a mistake and how it just kept happening, about how Daniel would never find out, and the line that broke me the most, "He's too good to me." That's the problem. I didn't sleep that night, didn't eat the next day, didn't cry, just stared at the ceiling. Then something in me changed. See, there's a kind of pain that turns into clarity. You stop thinking like a victim and start thinking like someone who's got nothing left to lose. So I planned. The next weekend, I told Rachel I want to take a trip, just the two of us. A weekend getaway to a cabin upstate. She smiled, excited, probably thinking everything was fine again. Before we left, I called Emily. Told her I'd left something important in her apartment. Asked if I could swing by. She said sure, like nothing was wrong. I went up while she was out running errands. This time, I didn't bring a recorder. I brought a note. It said, "You both took everything from me. Don't worry, I'll return the favor. You'll know when." I left it under her pillow. At the cabin, Rachel acted normal. She made dinner, opened a bottle of wine, played music. I sat across from her, watching the flicker of candlelight dance across her face, wondering how many times those lips had whispered my sister's name. Then she said something that nearly made me laugh. "I feel so lucky to have you." I smiled. "Yeah, you really are." After dinner, I suggested we play a game, a relationship quiz I'd seen online. She thought it was cute, but every question I asked got darker. "Have you ever lied to someone who trusted you completely?" She laughed nervously, said, "Everyone lies sometimes." "Have you ever betrayed someone who would have done anything for you?" She hesitated. "Daniel, what's going on?" I leaned back and said quietly, "Tell me what's going on between you and Emily." The color drained from her face instantly. She stammered, denied, cried, begged, all the usual stages of a liar's breakdown. But when I pulled out my phone and played the recording, her body just collapsed. I didn't yell, didn't hit her, didn't throw anything. I just stood up, packed my bag, and said, "You can tell Emily this was the moment I stopped being your brother." When I drove home that night, I stopped by Emily's place. She opened the door, eyes red, holding the note I'd left. She said, "Daniel, please." I held up my hand. "No, you don't get to talk." She started crying, tried to explain that it just happened, that she was drunk, that she didn't mean for it to continue. I told her to look me in the eye and tell me she didn't know it would destroy me. She couldn't, so I turned around and left. That was 6 months ago. I cut both of them out completely, blocked their numbers, deleted every photo, moved to another city. But here's the part one didn't expect. I found peace, real peace. Because when you finally let go of the people who betrayed you, the silence that follows isn't empty. It's freedom. But I didn't just let go. I made sure they'd never forget what they did. That's what part 2 is about. Because a man can forgive a lot of things, but not this. I used to think revenge was a loud, chaotic explosion. But in reality, the best revenge is quiet, cold, precise. It doesn't shout. It whispers. After I left that cabin, I drove through the night, no destination in mind. The rain came down heavy, the kind that drowns out every thought except one. They'll remember this. I spent the next few weeks trying to rebuild some kind of routine. I still went to work, still smiled when people talked to me, still said, "I'm fine" when anyone asked. But I was a ghost walking through my own life. Then one night, sitting in my new apartment, I realized something. They weren't sorry. Not really. Rachel had texted me a week after I left. One single message. "I miss you. Please talk to me." Emily never texted. But through her old neighbor, I heard she'd been spiraling, drinking, skipping work, crying all the time. And instead of pity, I felt something else. A dark calm. Because I knew exactly what I was going to do. See, Rachel worked at a marketing firm that handled some major clients. She'd always bragged about how much they trusted her, how she was the go-to person for high-value accounts. Emily, on the other hand, was still finishing college, struggling to stay afloat financially. 2 perfect pressure points. So I waited. One morning, I sent Rachel a polite email from a fake account I created using an alias. Rachel, I represent a private client interested in a long-term marketing partnership. We'd love to discuss details confidentially. Are you available for a video call this week? She replied within an hour. Of course she did. Rachel loved attention, especially the kind that came wrapped in opportunity. I set up a call using fake branding, fake slides, even a fake business LinkedIn page. I knew her professional world inside out because I'd helped her build it. During that call, I introduced myself as David Walker, a fictional executive. I even used a subtle voice filter, just enough to sound different. She smiled through the screen, all charm and ambition, completely unaware. She said, "I'm really glad you reached out, Mr. Walker." And I said, "So am I, Rachel. I've heard quite a bit about you." She blushed, unaware that the man she once cheated on was watching her from behind glass. The meeting went perfectly. I told her my company would love to partner with her firm, but only if she was personally assigned to the account. She agreed instantly. The next step was simple. I leaked the fake company's financials to her real boss anonymously, with just enough inconsistencies to make her look careless. 2 weeks later, She was suspended pending an internal investigation. I didn't need to ruin her life, just her reputation, because for Rachel, that was her life. Emily, though, her punishment wasn't about reputation. It was about truth. I didn't want to hurt her financially or legally. I wanted her to see herself. So I mailed her something, a single USB drive with one audio file. It was my voice, calm and quiet. This is what betrayal sounds like. I hope it keeps you awake the way it kept me. Then I played back snippets of the recordings I had. Her laughter, her guilt, her words. At the end, I said, "You're not my sister anymore, but I'll always be the man who loved you enough to hate what you became." I didn't include a return address. 3 days later, she called from an unknown number. I didn't answer, but she left a voicemail I'll never forget. She said, "I don't expect forgiveness. I just want you to know, I think about it every day. I hate myself for what I did." There was a pause, then a sob, and then silence. That's when I realized something deeper than revenge. Closure doesn't come from making them pay. It comes from making them see. Months passed. Rachel lost her job. Emily dropped out of school for a while. I wasn't proud of what I'd done, but I wasn't sorry either. One night, I was sitting on my balcony, watching the city lights flicker when my phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. This time, I answered. It was Rachel. Her voice was soft, fragile, trembling. "Daniel, please, just hear me out." I didn't speak. She said, "I know I don't deserve it, but I need you to know I loved you. I was broken. I made the worst mistake of my life." I let her talk. Every word sounded rehearsed, but there was something raw underneath. Then she said, "I see you in my dreams. You're just standing there, looking at me, silent." I took a deep breath and finally spoke. "Good," I said. "That means your conscience is working again." She started crying, asking if there was any chance I could forgive her. And I told her the truth. Already did. But forgiving you doesn't mean I want you back. It just means I'm free. Then I hung up. The next morning, I woke up lighter than I'd felt in years. It wasn't the kind of peace that comes from forgetting. It was the kind that comes from surviving. I loved two people who destroyed me, and somehow I was still here. That's when I decided to write everything down. Not to post it, not to get sympathy, but to remember. Because memory, once faced, loses its power to haunt you. But maybe the universe has a sense of humor, because a few weeks later, Emily sent me a letter. Inside was a small, folded photo, the three of us from years ago. Rachel, Emily, and me, smiling on a summer day. On the back, Emily had written one line. "I wish I could go back before I ruined everything." For the first time in a long while, I didn't feel anger. I just felt sad. Sad that the people I loved couldn't love me the same way back. Now, whenever it rains, I don't think of that night in her apartment anymore. I think of the cabin. The moment I decided to stop begging for love and start demanding respect from the world, from myself. Because that's the real revenge. Moving on so completely that they can't touch you anymore, not even in memory. I met someone new recently. Quiet, honest, nothing like Rachel. And you know what's funny? I told her the truth about everything on our second date. She just nodded and said, "Then let's build something honest from the start." That's when I knew I was finally done. If you've ever been betrayed, let this be your reminder. You don't have to destroy them to win. You just have to live a life they can't reach anymore. And if you're still healing, still try to sleep through the noise of what they did. You're not alone. Stay, listen, breathe. More stories like this will find you here every night. He promised forever, then vanished without a word. I woke up to an empty pillow. No note, no text, just silence. The kind that hurts more than words ever could. That's how it started. The morning that changed everything. His name was Evan. We'd been together for 3 years. The kind of relationship that looked perfect from the outside. The smiles, the Sunday coffee runs, the inside jokes that no one else understood. Everyone thought we were endgame. I thought so too. We met at a bookstore. Classic, right? I was sitting on the floor of the fiction section, reading the first few pages of a novel I couldn't afford that week. He walked by, crouched next to me, and said, "That one has a horrible ending." I looked up, ready to argue, and then I saw his eyes. Gray, calm, curious. He smiled like he already knew me. We started talking about books, then about music, then about everything else. He offered to buy me coffee, and 2 hours later, I was laughing like I hadn't in months. That night, he texted me, "You're the kind of person I could get addicted to." And from that moment, he did everything to prove it. For 3 years, Evan was the center of my world. He remembered every detail, my favorite flower, the exact way I liked my tea, the song I listened to when I was anxious. He'd show up at my office with takeout when I worked late. He'd text me home safe before I even started driving. When he asked me to move in, it felt right. Natural, like the next page in a story that was already being written for us. I said yes without hesitation. We painted the apartment together. He chose gray walls. I added fairy lights. We argued about furniture placement like an old married couple, then made up by dancing barefoot on the cold tile floor. For a while, it was perfect. Too perfect. The first sign came quietly. It was a Tuesday evening, and he came home later than usual. He smelled like cologne, not his, not ours. When I asked where he'd been, he smiled that easy smile and said, "Just with some friends." "You worry too much, babe." But something about his tone didn't sit right. That night, when he fell asleep, I checked his phone, something I'd never done before. I told myself it was just curiosity, but deep down, I knew it was fear. His messages were clean. Too clean. No random texts. No workgroup chats. Nothing. I closed the phone and cried quietly beside him, realizing that sometimes silence is the biggest red flag of all. A week later, I noticed he'd started putting a passcode on his phone. When I teased him about it, he said, "You watch too many dramas." But the thing about intuition, it doesn't care how logical you are. It whispers. It warns. And it was screaming at me by then. One Friday night, he told me he was working late. I believed him until midnight when I saw his co-worker's Instagram story. A blurry picture of him at a rooftop bar, laughing with someone I didn't recognize. The girl in the photo had her hand on his arm. The caption, "Friday nights with the best company winking face." My stomach dropped. I stared at that picture until the screen dimmed, then called him. No answer. I called again, straight to voicemail. By 2 a.m., I convinced myself there had to be an explanation. Maybe it was innocent. Maybe it wasn't even recent. But when he came home at 3 a.m., reeking of whiskey and perfume, I stopped pretending. "Who is she?" I asked. He blinked, slow and calm. "What are you talking about?" I showed him the photo. He looked at it, sighed, and said, "You really think I'd cheat on you over that?" "Yes," I whispered. He laughed, that low, quiet laugh that made my blood boil. "You're being dramatic." "No," I said, voice breaking. "I'm being honest." He turned away, muttering something about me, always needing problems. That was the first night we slept in silence. Him on one side, me staring at the ceiling, counting the seconds between my heartbeat and his. Days passed. He grew colder, detached. He stopped holding my hand in public. Stopped texting me good morning. Stopped caring, at least pretending to. And then came the night that broke me. It was raining outside. I was cooking dinner, trying to fix what was left of us, when his phone buzzed on the counter. The name that flashed across the screen was one I didn't recognize. The message read, "Last night was amazing. Can't wait to see you again, Red Heart." My hand started shaking. I picked up his phone, stared at the message, and felt something inside me fracture. He walked in right then, saw me holding it, and froze. I said, "Who is she?" He didn't answer. He didn't even try to lie this time. Instead, he said, "I can't do this anymore." That sentence echoed through the apartment like thunder. I dropped the phone. "What do you mean?" He didn't look guilty, just tired. "I've been trying to make this work, but I'm not happy." "You're not happy. We're just dragging it out." I felt my breath catch. "You're seeing someone else, aren't you?" Silence. That was my answer. He grabbed a suitcase from the closet, one that had been packed already. That detail hurt the most. "You planned this," I whispered. He didn't deny it. I said, "You could have at least told me the truth before you started lying." He stopped at the door, finally looked at me, and said, "I didn't want to hurt you." Then he left. I stood in that empty apartment, surrounded by everything we'd built, the half-painted walls, the framed photos, the mug he'd bought me from our first trip. And I realized something. You don't notice how much space a person takes up until they're gone. That night, I sat on the floor with his mug in my hand and whispered, "I hope you remember what you threw away." But deep down, I knew he wouldn't, because people who walk away that easily never look back. Weeks went by. I went through every stage: anger, sadness, denial, silence. Some days, I'd wake up ready to move on. Other days, I'd check his social media, torturing myself with images of him smiling with that same girl. She was pretty, younger, free of the memories we shared. It hurt, but also taught me something. Sometimes love doesn't die. It just changes form. It turns into lessons, into strength. And one night, as I watched rain trickle down the window, I promised myself something. I won't chase closure from someone who doesn't deserve it. 3 months later, I saw him again. It was at a friend's birthday dinner. I didn't know he'd be there. He looked the same, but different. Confident, polished, like he'd moved on completely. He walked up, smiled, and said, "You look good." I smiled back. "So do you?" He asked if we could talk, and against my better judgment, I agreed. We sat in the corner booth, the hum of the restaurant fading behind us. He said, "I didn't handle things right. I owe you an apology." And for a split second, I thought maybe, just maybe, he meant it. Then he said, "I just hope you don't still hate me." I laughed softly. I don't even think about you anymore." That was a lie, but it was one I needed to say. He nodded, awkwardly smiled, and said, "Good. That means we can be friends, right?" That's when I realized something else. People who break you rarely understand the damage they leave behind. That night, after everyone left, I drove home and deleted every photo, every message, every trace of him. Not out of anger, out of peace. Because he'd taken enough of my time, my energy, my love. He didn't deserve another second. But the universe has a strange sense of irony. Because just as I finished deleting the last photo, my phone buzzed with a new message. It was from an unknown number. "Do you ever think about me?" And my heart stopped. The message sat on my screen, glowing in the dark like a wound I thought had healed. "Do you ever think about me?" It had been 6 months since Evan walked out. 6 months since I last heard his voice. And now, suddenly, his ghost had learned to text. For a while, I just stared at it. My heart was pounding, but not in that excited way it used to when he'd message me. This was different. He felt like a stranger now, one who'd stolen something from me that I'd finally learned to live without. I didn't reply that night. I couldn't. I just put the phone face down and tried to sleep. But every time I closed my eyes, I saw his face. Not the one that loved me, but the one that left me standing in our apartment with tears on my cheeks and his suitcase rolling out the door. The next morning, I woke up to another message. "I'm sorry for everything. I've been thinking about you a lot lately." I sighed. I should have ignored it. I should have blocked the number. But curiosity, or maybe weakness, got the better of me. So I replied, "You lost the right to think about me when you walked out." It took him only seconds to respond. "I know, but I never stopped caring about you." That word, caring, made me laugh. He'd cared enough to cheat, cared enough to pack a suitcase behind my back, cared enough to leave me to rebuild myself from the ashes of a life we'd built together. For the next week, he kept texting, little messages, harmless ones at first. "Saw that new bookstore downtown. Made me think of you. You still drink tea before bed? I miss talking to you." Every time I ignored him, he tried harder. And even though I told myself I was over him, I could feel old emotions try to crawl back through the cracks. That's what heartbreak does. It doesn't end cleanly. It lingers. It whispers. One Friday night, I finally agreed to meet him. Not because I wanted him back, but because I wanted closure. The kind I never really got. We met at the same cafe where we had our first date. He looked older somehow, not physically, but in the way life leaves marks on a person. He smiled when he saw me. "You cut your hair." "Yeah," I said. "People change." He looked down, fidgeting with his cup. "You look amazing. Better than I remembered." I didn't respond. After a long pause, he said quietly, "I made a mistake." I stared at him. "Which part? The lying? The cheating? Or the leaving?" He sighed. "All of it." He told me he'd broken up with her a few months ago. Apparently, it wasn't what he thought it'd be. She was fun, wild, spontaneous, everything I wasn't according to him. But when the excitement faded, so did the relationship. "I thought I wanted something different," he said. "But all I did was lose the best thing I ever had." I didn't say anything. I just stirred my tea, listening to the sound of the spoon against the cup, sharp, rhythmic, unforgiving. Then he leaned forward, his voice soft. "I want another chance." For a second, I felt like time had folded in on itself. Like I was back in that apartment, waiting for him to choose me. But I wasn't that woman anymore. So I looked him in the eye and said no. He blinked. "No." "Yes." You don't get to break something and then decide when it's convenient to fix it. He frowned. "I know I hurt you, but I've changed. I'm not the same person anymore." "Neither am I," I said. "But the difference is, I changed because you broke me, not because I wanted someone back." He sat back, stunned. Maybe he expected tears. Maybe he expected me to melt like before. But there was no sadness left, only peace. After that night, he tried a few more times. Flowers at my office. Voice messages saying he missed my laugh. Even a letter, a handwritten one, like we were in some old romance movie. I didn't reply to any of it, because by then, I'd started to realize something. Closure doesn't come from the person who hurt you. It comes when you decide their voice doesn't matter anymore. Then, out of nowhere, I met someone new. His name was Liam. We met at a charity art show downtown. I was there with a friend. He was volunteering at the event. He wasn't charming in the same way Evan had been. He didn't have that smooth, practiced way of speaking that made people feel like they were in a movie. He was quieter, real. He listened. Our first conversation lasted 4 hours. About art, about regrets, about how hard it is to trust again after heartbreak. He didn't try to fix me. He just sat there, listened, and said, "You didn't deserve that." That sentence healed something that months of crying hadn't. Weeks turned into months. Liam and I grew closer. Slowly, carefully, the way you rebuild after a storm. He never pushed. He never questioned my scars. He just stayed, steady, patient kind. And for the first time since Evan, I started to feel safe again. Then, just as things were starting to feel good, Evan showed up at my door. Unannounced, uninvited. It was raining that night. Poetic, right? I opened the door, and there he was, standing there in a soaked jacket, hair plastered to his forehead, holding a box. "Can we talk?" he said, voice shaky. "No," I said. "You need to leave." He looked desperate. "Please, just 5 minutes." I should have shut the door, but a part of me, the part that used to love him, hesitated, so I let him in. He sat on my couch, dripping rainwater onto the carpet, holding that box like it was something fragile. He said, "I found this while moving. Thought you should have it." Inside were pieces of our past. The mug he'd bought me, photos from our first trip, the book we'd read together. He said, "I can't stop thinking about you. I know you're seeing someone else, but I can't let you go." I felt anger rise in my chest, the selfishness of it all. "You don't get to say that," I said. "You had your chance." He rubbed his face, looking broken. "I made the biggest mistake of my life." I stood up. "You made a choice. Live with it." He looked up at me, eyes wet, from tears or rain, I couldn't tell. "I still love you," he whispered. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was tragic. You love the idea of me, the memory, but you don't get to love me now that someone else does it better. He stayed quiet for a while, then said, "Do you ever miss me?" I thought about it, about everything we've been through. The laughter, the betrayal, the nights I cried myself to sleep. And I said, "Sometimes I miss who I thought you were." But not you. That's when he broke. He stood, walked to the door, turned around one last time, and said, "You've changed." I smiled softly. That was the point. Then I closed the door, this time for good. Months later, I found that box again, tucked in the corner of my closet. I opened it, smiled at the memories, and then did something I thought I'd never do. I took everything out to the backyard, lit a small fire, and watched it all turn to ash. It wasn't revenge. It was release. Because every time I'd held onto those pieces, I was still giving him space in my story. That night, as I watched the last photo burn, Liam came up behind me, wrapped his arms around my waist, and whispered, "You okay?" I nodded. "Yeah, for the first time in a long time, I really am." He smiled against my neck and said, "You deserve peace." And I finally believed him. Sometimes, healing doesn't look like forgetting. It looks like finally being able to remember without feeling pain. It looks like realizing that the person who once broke your heart was actually the reason you learned how to protect it. And if Evan ever wonders whether I think about him, the answer is no, because now I think about me, and that's so much better. Subscribe if you believe letting go is sometimes the strongest thing you can do. Sometimes, betrayal doesn't come from strangers. It comes from the people who swore they'd never lie to you. And that's exactly how my story begins. It started on an ordinary Friday evening. I was sitting on the couch, scrolling through Netflix, when my sister Grace dropped by unannounced. She never did that. Grace was always the text before you visit type, organized, predictable, the kind of person who made color-coded calendars for fun. So when she showed up with that nervous smile, holding a bottle of wine, I knew something was off. "Hey," I said cautiously, "this is unexpected." She laughed a little too quickly. "I figured we could have a girls' night. You know, like old times." I raised an eyebrow. "Sure, let me grab glasses." We sat there, sipping wine and watching some random cooking show. It felt awkward, though. Her laughs were forced, and she kept checking her phone like she was waiting for something. Then, out of nowhere, she said, "So, how's that new guy you're seeing?" I blinked. "Ethan? He's great, actually. It's been almost 6 months." Her smile faltered. 6 months, huh? "Yeah," I said, leaning back. "Why? That a problem?" She hesitated, then shook her head. No, I'm happy for you. Just curious." Something in her tone made my stomach twist. After she left that night, I couldn't shake the weird feeling. Grace had been distant lately, shorter texts, avoiding family dinners, and now this uncomfortable visit. I brushed it off, telling myself I was overthinking. But then, a week later, I found something that made my world spin. Ethan and I were out to dinner, celebrating his promotion. He excused himself to take a call, leaving his phone on the table. I wasn't snooping, I swear I wasn't, but when it buzzed with a new message, I glanced down out of habit. It was from a name I recognized all too well. Grace. My chest tightened. The message said, "We need to talk. This isn't fair to her." My fingers went cold. My sister. My boyfriend. I waited until Ethan came back, pretending nothing was wrong. I didn't mention it. I couldn't. Not in public. But that night, when I got home, I called Grace. She didn't answer. For the next few days, I watched both of them closely. Ethan was distant, quieter than usual. Grace stopped replying to my texts altogether. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I drove to her apartment. When she opened the door, she looked like she hadn't slept in days. "Grace," I said, my voice trembling, "why are you texting Ethan?" Her face went pale. "You saw that?" "Yeah. What the hell is going on?" She looked down, then whispered, "You're not going to like it. Try me." She took a deep breath and said words that made my entire body go numb. "I dated him. Before you." I just stared at her. "You what?" She nodded, tears welling up. "It was years ago, before you even met him. It didn't mean anything." I laughed, that bitter, broken kind of laugh that doesn't sound human. "You dated Ethan?" "My Ethan." She tried to grab my hand, but I pulled away. "Please listen." "No, you listen." I snapped. "You've been acting weird for months. and now I find out my boyfriend is your ex? You didn't think to tell me that sooner." Grace's voice cracked. I didn't know how. I didn't even realize it was the same guy until I saw a photo of you 2 months ago. My mind was spinning. You didn't realize? Grace, how many Ethans have the same last name? Same face, same voice. She started crying. I swear I didn't. We only dated for a few months back in college. It ended badly, and I wanted to forget about him. I didn't think I'd ever see him again. I wanted to believe her, but all I could see was the betrayal. The two people I trusted most linked in a way that made me feel sick. That night, I confronted Ethan. He didn't even try to deny it. "Yeah," he said quietly. "It's true. I dated your sister, but it was years ago, before we ever met." I crossed my arms. "And you didn't think that was worth mentioning?" He sighed. "I didn't recognize her at first either. When I did, I didn't want to ruin what we had." I laughed bitterly. "Oh, so keeping secrets is your way of protecting me?" "Come on, it's not like that." "It's exactly like that," I snapped. "You and my sister both lied to me. You think that's something I can just move past?" He looked desperate. "I love you, okay? I didn't want something that happened years ago to mess this up." "Then maybe you should have trusted me enough to tell the truth," I said coldly. He reached for me, but I stepped back. "Don't," I said. "You've done enough." And I walked out. For days, I ignored both of them. My phone buzzed constantly, calls, messages, apologies, but I couldn't look at either of their names without feeling nauseous. My mom eventually called, asking why Grace and I weren't speaking. I didn't tell her the truth. I couldn't handle the drama that would come with it. But the silence between my sister and me became unbearable. So one night, I went to see her. She opened the door, eyes swollen. "I didn't think you'd come." "I didn't either," I said quietly. "But I need answers." She nodded. "You deserve them." We sat on her couch, the air heavy with tension. She started talking about how she and Ethan met in college, how he was charming at first but turned manipulative, how she broke up with him after he cheated on her, and how she promised herself she'd never get involved with someone like that again. My stomach turned. "He cheated on you?" She nodded. "Yeah, with some girl from his class." I was devastated. That's why I moved away after graduation. I felt a wave of anger wash over me, not just at Ethan, but at myself for falling for him. Grace continued, her voice cracking. "When I saw your photo with him, I panicked. I thought maybe he'd changed. I wanted to tell you, but I didn't want to ruin your happiness. By lying to me," I said bitterly. She covered her face. "I was wrong. I know that now." I stood up, pacing. "You both lied to me to protect me. Do you realize how insane that sounds?" Grace whispered, "I just didn't want to lose you." For a moment, the anger faded, replaced by something heavier. Sadness. Disappointment. I looked at her and said softly, "You already did." Then I left. That night, Ethan showed up at my apartment. He looked exhausted, dark circles under his eyes. "Please, just hear me out." I folded my arms. "You've had plenty of chances to talk. Why should I believe anything you say now?" He took a shaky breath. "Because I've never loved anyone the way I love you. What I had with Grace was a mistake. I was young, selfish, stupid. But you—" "Stop," I interrupted. "Don't romanticize this. You lied. Both of you did. That's not love." He ran a hand through his hair. "What do you want me to say? I should have told you?" "Fine. I should have. But it doesn't change how I feel." I stared at him. "It changes everything for me." He went quiet. For a long time, neither of us spoke. Then, softly, he said, "Do you really think you can just walk away from this?" I met his gaze. "Watch me," and I shut the door in his face. For the first time in years, I felt empty, but also free. No lies, no secrets, just silence. But that silence wouldn't last long, because 2 weeks later, I got a call from Grace. Her voice was trembling. "You need to come over," she said. "It's about Ethan." And just like that, the past I tried to bury came crashing back to life. When Grace called me that night, her voice was shaking so hard I could barely make out the words. "Please," she said, breath hitching, "just come over." I don't know what to do. Something in her tone made my stomach drop. I didn't ask questions, I just grabbed my keys and drove. When I got to her apartment, her lights were on, the door slightly open. Grace! I called, stepping inside. She was sitting on the couch, clutching her phone, her hands trembling. Her eyes were red, and she looked terrified. What's going on? I asked, my heart pounding. She handed me her phone wordlessly. On the screen was a text thread from Ethan. The most recent message read, "You think you can just tell her and get away with it? You have no idea what I'm capable of." My breath caught. "He sent you this?" She nodded. "About an hour ago. I think he's been watching me. There was a car parked outside all evening." "Jesus, Grace," I whispered. "We need to call the cops." "I already did," she said, voice cracking. "They told me unless he physically threatens me or shows up, they can't do much." I clenched my fists. "That's ridiculous." She stared at me helplessly. "What do I do?" I wanted to tell her to pack a bag, to come stay with me. But then the anger hit again, the betrayal that started all of this. Still, seeing her like that, small, shaking, scared, I couldn't just walk away. "Grab your stuff," I said firmly. "You're coming with me." She hesitated. "Are you sure? I'm not leaving you here alone." That night, she crashed on my couch while I sat awake, staring at the door, phone in hand. Every sound made my heart race. At around 2 a.m., my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. There was silence at first, then a low, familiar voice. "You think you're better than her, huh?" My throat went dry. "Ethan, you two made a fool out of me," he said coldly. "But I don't forget things like this." I swallowed hard. "You need to stop contacting us, or I'm calling the police." He laughed, a slow, unsettling sound. "You think they'll protect you? You have no idea what's coming." Then he hung up. The next few days were chaos. Grace and I filed restraining orders, but he kept finding ways to get to us. Fake numbers, new social accounts, even flowers left at my doorstep with no note. It was like he wanted to remind us he was watching. Grace barely slept. I tried to keep it together for both of us, but every time my phone buzzed, my chest tightened. And then, everything escalated. One evening, I got home from work and found my apartment door slightly ajar. Panic shot through me. "Grace!" I called. No answer. I walked in slowly, my heart pounding in my ears. Everything looked normal, except for one thing. On the kitchen counter sat a single red rose and a photo. It was of me, asleep in my bed. The blood drained from my face. I grabbed my phone, dialing Grace immediately. Pick up, pick up." After 3 rings, she answered, sounding groggy. "Hey, what's wrong? Where are you?" "At Mom's house." "Why? Stay there," I said, my voice shaking. "He's been here." That was it for me. I called the police again, showed them the photo. They took it seriously this time, finally. They promised to keep patrols near my building, but I knew how these things went. Paperwork, promises, and no real safety. I wasn't going to sit around waiting to be his next message. So I came up with a plan. If Ethan wanted to play mind games, I'd make sure he lost. I started by pretending to go quiet. No social media, no replies, no signs of activity. Grace did the same. We wanted him to think he'd scared us into silence. A few days later, my neighbor, an older guy named Frank who'd always looked out for me, texted saying he saw someone hanging around the parking lot late at night. When he described the car, I knew it was Ethan's. Perfect. That night, I parked my car a few blocks away and came home through the back alley. I turned off all the lights and waited. Sure enough, around midnight, I heard footsteps outside my window. My heart hammered as I peeked through the curtain. There he was, Ethan, standing in the shadows, watching. I pulled out my phone and hit record. He circled my car, checked the windows, and even tried the door handle before walking toward the building entrance. My hands were shaking, but I kept filming. When he got to my door and tried the knob, I flipped on the porch light. "Smile," I said through the peephole. "You're on camera." He froze. Then I heard him mutter something and bolt. I called the cops again and sent them the video. That was the last time Ethan ever came near my building. Weeks passed. The silence was unsettling at first, but then it became peace. Grace started therapy. I went back to work, slowly trying to rebuild my routine. But deep down, I couldn't shake one thought: how close I'd come to losing everything because of someone I thought I knew. It wasn't just the fear. It was the realization that love, real love, shouldn't come with lies, secrets, and danger. And yet, even after everything, a small part of me missed the version of him I thought was real. That's the cruelest part about betrayal. You grieve a person who never really existed. A few months later, I ran into Grace at a family brunch. Things were better. Not perfect, but better. She gave me a small smile. "You look good. Happier." "I'm getting there," I said. She nodded. "I'm proud of you for walking away." I took a deep breath. "You too." We sat in silence for a bit before she added quietly, "I still think about him sometimes." "Me too," I admitted. "But not because I miss him, because I learned from him." Grace gave a soft laugh. "Guess that one thing he was good for." Later that night, as I sat by my window, the rain tapping against the glass, I realized something important. Sometimes the people who break you the most are the ones who teach you the deepest lessons about boundaries, strength, and self-worth. I'd spent months thinking I was a victim in Ethan's story, but I wasn't. I was the one who ended it, the one who survived, the one who refused to let his darkness swallow me whole. And maybe, just maybe, that was the closure I'd been searching for all along. If you're still here listening, thank you. If you've ever been through something like this, I want you to remember this. You are not broken because someone lied to you. You're just healing from people who couldn't love you right. And if this story made you feel something, hit that subscribe button, stay a while, and let's keep healing together, one story at a time. She said it was just a goodbye hug. She said it was just a goodbye hug. But that hug lasted 5 seconds too long. And that's when everything started to fall apart. I still remember that night vividly. The way her perfume clung to the air, the sound of soft rain tapping against the glass, and the faint reflection of her phone lighting up her face. I didn't know then that it was the beginning of the end. I thought I was overthinking. I thought she'd never lie to me. Her name's Mia, my girlfriend of 3 years. The girl I once swore I'd marry. We met in college. She was all laughter and confidence, the kind of person who could make a crowded room go quiet just by walking in. I was the quiet one, the guy who found peace in fixing things. She said I grounded her. I believed her. When we graduated, we moved in together. A tiny apartment, 1 bedroom, barely enough space for our dreams, but it felt like everything we needed. We made coffee every morning, shared playlists while cooking dinner, argued about who forgot to buy milk. It was domestic chaos, but the kind that felt like home. Until that night. It started with her going out for drinks with friends. I didn't question it. I trusted her. But something in her tone felt different. Lighter. Like she was excited for something I wasn't part of. She came back past midnight. Hair a little messy, eyes a little distant. I asked how it went. She smiled, kissed my cheek, and said, "It was just a goodbye. He's moving away for work." He. That single word hit different. I didn't even know there was a he in her circle. "Who?" I asked casually. She shrugged. "Just someone from college. You don't know him." She was lying. I didn't have proof, but my gut knew. And guts don't lie. Over the next week, she became distant. Her phone was always upside down. Her smile felt rehearsed. She started staying late at work. I tried to convince myself I was being paranoid. That's what trust is supposed to mean, right? Giving someone the benefit of the doubt, even when it hurts. But every time she texted and turned away from me, every time she left the room to take a call, that trust died a little. The breaking point came a week later. She left her laptop open on the couch. I never checked her stuff. I hated the idea of snooping. But when I saw the name Ethan pop up on the screen, something inside me snapped. The message read, "I wish that hug lasted longer." And her reply, "Me too." It felt right. My hands went cold. My chest tightened. My ears rang. I stared at the words for a long time, hoping they'd change, hoping it was some kind of misunderstanding. But they didn't. She walked in moments later, saw my face, and froze. "Mia," I said quietly. "Who's Ethan?" Her eyes darted to the screen, then back to me. She didn't even try to deny it. Instead, she whispered, "It's not what it looks like." "But isn't it always?" I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I just sat there, feeling everything crumble inside. "Then what is it?" I asked. Tears welled in her eyes. "It was just a moment. I swear. He's leaving for good." It didn't mean anything, but it did. It meant she let someone else touch a part of her heart that was supposed to be mine. I told her to leave for the night. I needed space. She packed a bag quietly, trying not to cry. Before she left, she said, "I love you. Please don't let this ruin us." The door clicked shut, and for the first time in years, I felt truly alone. The next morning, I woke up to silence. No coffee brewing, no soft humming from the shower, no morning text saying love you. Just the echo of that message. It felt right. I didn't respond to her text for 2 days. I couldn't. Every time I saw her name, I saw his instead. But on the 3rd day, she showed up at my door. Her eyes were swollen, makeup smudged, hair in a messy bun. The version of her I used to love most. "I can explain," she said. I let her in. She sat on the couch, hands trembling. "It happened after we all went out for drinks," she began. "He said he was leaving, and I hugged him. It was stupid. He kissed me for like a second, and I pulled away. Then why the messages?" I asked. She bit her lip. "I don't know. Maybe I missed how it felt to be wanted. That broke me more than the kiss." "I wanted you every damn day, Mia," I said. "You just stopped seeing it." She cried harder. I didn't. I'd already done enough crying in silence. I told her I needed time, real time. She begged. She pleaded. She even brought up our memories, but I was done listening to words. I wanted actions. She left again that night. The days after were a blur of empty spaces and long silences. I'd go to work, come home, and just exist, until a mutual friend texted me. "Hey, just a heads up, saw Mia at a cafe with that guy Ethan again." My stomach turned. I didn't even think. I got in my car and drove straight there. And sure enough, through the glass, there she was, laughing. The same laugh that used to make my worst days better. Only now, it was for someone else. I didn't go inside. I just watched for a moment. Then I turned around, got back in my car, and left. I wasn't angry. Not anymore. I was done. That night, I texted her one last time. "You said it was just a hug. I believed you. That was my mistake." Then I blocked her. Everywhere. 3 months later, I met someone new, Lena. She wasn't flashy or loud. She listened. She cared. She made me laugh again. But every now and then, I still think about that night, about how a single hug destroyed everything I believed in. Sometimes, love doesn't die from betrayal. It dies from the slow erosion of trust, when it didn't mean anything at a time. 3 months passed, but her ghost didn't. Some nights, I'd wake up and swear I could still hear her laugh echoing in the kitchen. The cup she always used for coffee, still sitting on top shelf. I didn't throw it away. I don't even know why. Maybe part of me still needed proof she was real, that we were real. Lena noticed. One evening, as we sat together watching the rain outside, she said quietly, "You're still holding on to something that already left, aren't you?" Her voice wasn't accusing, just sad. I sighed. Maybe I'm just holding on to who I used to be. Lena nodded. Then maybe it's time to let him go too. That hit harder than I expected. The closure I wanted from Mia never came. No apology that felt honest. No moment of truth that made sense. Just silence. Until one morning, an unknown number texted me. "Please, just hear me out." It was her. For a second, I almost deleted it. But my curiosity, that stupid human instinct, won. I replied, "What do you want, Mia?" "To explain. To make things right. Please meet me." I agreed. Not because I wanted her back, but because I wanted to stop thinking about what ifs. We met at the same cafe where I'd last seen her, poetic in a twisted kind of way. She looked different, tired, like someone who'd been carrying too much guilt for too long. She smiled when she saw me, but I didn't. "Thanks for coming," she said softly. "Let's just get to the point," I replied. She nodded, eyes glistening. "I messed up. I didn't realize what I was losing until I saw you walk away. Ethan, he wasn't what I wanted. I think I was just chasing the version of myself that felt exciting again. You didn't deserve that." I leaned back. "You think I came here for an apology?" She blinked. "Didn't you?" "No," I said flatly. "I came here to make sure I don't feel anything anymore. And guess what? I don't." That silence, the kind that feels like a blade, filled the space between us. Her eyes filled with tears. "I still love you, you know." "No," I said. "You love who I was when I still believed you." She tried to reach across the table, but I pulled my hand away. "Mia," I said quietly, "I'm not the same man you betrayed. I'm not angry anymore. I'm just done." Her lip trembled. "Can't we at least be friends?" "Friends don't destroy each other," I replied, standing up. "You made your choice. I'm just making mine." Then I walked out. That was supposed to be the end. But life doesn't always let you walk away clean. 2 weeks later, I got a call from her sister. Apparently, Mia's new relationship had ended badly. She'd been cheated on. The irony wasn't lost on me. Part of me wanted to feel satisfied, but I didn't. I just felt nothing. Until her sister added, "She's been asking about you. Keeps saying she wishes she could undo everything." I hung up without replying. Because that's the thing about closure. Sometimes you have to write it yourself. But fate had one more twist waiting. A few days later, Lena and I went out for dinner. The place was crowded, the music soft, and that's when I saw Mia again. She was sitting alone at a corner table, staring into her drink. Our eyes met for half a second. She looked broken, smaller somehow. Lena followed my gaze. "Is that her?" I nodded slowly. "Do you want to leave?" she asked gently. I thought for a moment, then shook my head. "No, I think I'm finally okay." Mia looked like she wanted to say something, but I turned back to Lena, and for the first time in months, I smiled. That moment felt like quiet revenge. Not the loud kind with shouting or dramatic closure, but the silent kind that comes when you've healed and they haven't. Because the best revenge isn't proving them wrong. It's proving to yourself that you can move on. A month later, Lena and I went on a trip to the coast. The ocean was calm, the sky endless. As we sat by the water, she said, "You ever think about her?" Sometimes, I admitted, but not the way I used to. She smiled. "Good, because I like this version of you, the one who's finally free." I smiled back. "So do I." And that's when I realized closure isn't something you get from the person who hurt you. It's something you earn by refusing to let their actions define who you become. Mia was a chapter. Lena was a new page. And me? I was finally the author again. A few months later, I got a message from an unknown number. "I'm happy you're happy. I'm sorry for everything." It was her again. No name, no signature, but I knew. I didn't reply. I just stared at the message for a while, then deleted it. Not out of anger, out of peace. Because when you finally stop needing to win, you've already won. And if you've ever been hurt like that, if someone made you doubt your worth, your love, or your truth, just remember, you don't heal by finding someone new. You heal by finding yourself again. And when you do, no apology can touch you. So if you're listening to this while trying to fall asleep, wondering whether you'll ever get over the one who betrayed you, trust me, you will. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but one day you'll wake up, look at the sky, and realize you don't miss them anymore. That's when you'll know you made it. And if you've made it this far, don't forget to stay for tomorrow's story. They say the best revenge is peace, but wait till you hear what happens when peace meets karma. Make sure you're subscribed. You won't want to miss it. She tried to ruin my life, so I burned her lies to the ground. I used to believe that love was the kind of thing that made you softer. Turns out, it can also be the reason you harden beyond recognition. I'm 29, and I never thought I'd be the kind of guy to get tangled up in revenge. But when someone deliberately tries to destroy everything you've worked for, your career, your name, your peace, sometimes revenge is the only language they understand. Her name was Leah, We met 3 years ago when she joined my company as a project designer. She was charismatic, driven, and had this way of making everyone around her feel like they were the most important person in the room. She smiled like she meant it, spoke like she cared, and I fell for it. For the first 6 months, we were inseparable. She'd stay late with me at the office, working through designs and presentations. We'd go out for drinks after, laughing over small mistakes and big dreams. I didn't even realize how deeply I'd fallen until one night she said, "You're the only person here who actually sees me." And I believed her. Fast forward a year, and I was planning to propose. I'd bought the ring, told my sister, even told my best friend, Nate, who just grinned and said, "You sure she's the one, man?" I laughed it off, because how could she not be? But everything changed one Thursday morning. My boss called me into his office. His face was serious, too serious. "Evan," he said, "I'm getting complaints about your conduct, specifically harassment." My stomach dropped. "What? From who?" He didn't answer immediately, just slid a folder across the table. Inside were screenshots, emails, messages, and chat logs that painted me as a creep. Messages I never sent. And there it was, Leah's name. She had filed an anonymous report saying I'd been inappropriate, obsessive, and aggressive after she rejected my advances. I felt like I couldn't breathe. My mind was racing. None of it made sense. Just 2 days earlier, she'd been in my apartment, wearing my shirt, making breakfast. Now, she was accusing me of harassment. I walked out of that office with my hands shaking. I tried calling her. No answer. Texted her. Nothing. By the next day, HR had suspended me, pending investigation. I was told not to contact Leah or anyone else from work. And just like that, my life collapsed. My family thought I'd done something terrible. My friends distanced themselves. Even Nate looked at me differently when I told him. "Dude, that's serious," he said quietly. "You sure she didn't feel uncomfortable at some point?" I wanted to scream. I sat in my apartment for hours, staring at my phone. Then I got a message from a block number. "Maybe next time you'll think twice before crossing me." It was her. And that's when I realized this wasn't a misunderstanding. It was revenge. See, 2 weeks earlier, Leah had pitched a design concept for a big client. It was brilliant, except it wasn't hers. I'd found out she'd copied it from another agency's old presentation that never went public. When I called her out privately, she begged me not to tell anyone. Said it would ruin her. I didn't report her. I just told her to be honest with our team. She said she would, but instead, she burned me alive. For the next few weeks, I lived in hell. I was being investigated. My name was being whispered around the company. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. I was scared to even go outside because I could feel people judging me. Until one night, Nate came over. "Bro," he said, tossing his phone on the table. "You need to see this." It was Leah's private Instagram, and on her story, which one of her coworkers had screenshotted and sent to him, she was drunk at some rooftop bar, laughing with her friends. The caption read, "Karma tastes like champagne." That was it. That was the night something inside me broke. I wasn't going to sit back and let her destroy me. So I started digging. Over the next month, I collected everything I could. Text messages, old emails, chat logs, even CCTV footage from the office that showed we were clearly on friendly terms during the time she claimed I was harassing her. But that wasn't enough. If I wanted to expose her, I needed something undeniable. That's when I remembered the flash drive she'd left at my apartment months ago. She'd used it to transfer some files for a presentation. I'd forgotten to give it back. I plugged it in, and there it was, a folder labeled drafts. Inside were original stolen design concepts from that other agency. The metadata showed they were downloaded from a private drive belonging to one of their designers. She hadn't just copied, she hacked. That was the smoking gun. But I didn't go to HR. No, I was past that. I wanted her to feel the fear she'd made me live with. So I waited until her new project, the one she'd been bragging about on social media, was about to launch. I anonymously sent every stolen file, every piece of proof, and every time-stamped email to the client's legal department. Within 48 hours, The company pulled the plug on the deal. Leah was suspended pending investigation. But I wasn't done yet. I sent one last email, anonymously, to my company's HR team with everything about the false harassment report. The fake screenshots, her confession text she'd accidentally left in drafts, and a full timeline of our relationship. Within a week, HR cleared my name. They apologized privately, of course, wouldn't want to admit public wrongdoing. But they reinstated me. Leah, she was fired. But karma had one more twist in store. A few months later, I heard she tried to apply to another company. Guess what? Their hiring manager used to work with ours. One phone call, and her reference buried her career. Last I heard, she'd moved cities, trying to start fresh. And me? I'm not proud of what I did, but I don't regret it either. Because when someone tries to destroy you for no reason, sometimes you have to become the storm they created. But here's the part that still gets me. Weeks after she was fired, I got another blocked message. You think you won? You just made me stronger. I didn't reply. Didn't need to. Because this time, she was the one running from the fire. When you destroy someone who tried to destroy you, you expect peace. But peace doesn't come that easily. Even after Leah was fired, after my name was cleared, after everyone apologized, something in me still felt unfinished. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about closure. For months, I lived like a ghost. Work, sleep, repeat. I didn't go out, didn't date, didn't even speak much. It was like the part of me that used to trust people had died quietly in that HR office. Until one night, I saw her again. It was a Friday. My company was sponsoring a local networking event for designers and startups. I almost didn't go, but Nate convinced me. Come on, man. You've been living like a hermit, he said, smirking. It's time to show people you're back. Alive. Winning. He was right. So I went. And there she was, Leah, standing across the room in a black dress, laughing like nothing had ever happened. Her hair shorter, her confidence intact. It was like seeing a ghost that still had power over you. At first, I froze. My body literally wouldn't move. Then she turned, and our eyes met. Her smile faltered, just for a second. Then she recovered, lifted her drink, and mouthed, "Hey." I should have walked away, but I didn't. She walked over, every step slow, deliberate, like she knew I wouldn't leave. "Evan," she said softly, her voice a mix of surprise and something else. "You look good." I didn't answer. I just stared. She sighed, glancing around. "Look, can we just talk? Somewhere quieter." I don't know why I said yes. Maybe I wanted to hear her side. Maybe I wanted to know why. We went outside to the balcony overlooking the city. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The air was cold, the kind that stings just enough to remind you you're still alive. Finally, she said it. "I know what you did." I smirked. "You mean clearing my name?" "Yeah, I did that." She shook her head, eyes narrowing. "No, you ruined me, Evan. You sent those files, didn't you?" I didn't answer. She stepped closer, her voice low. "You think you're some kind of hero? You think exposing me makes you better than me?" I let out a bitter laugh. "You framed me for harassment, Leah. You made me lose everything. You don't get to talk about better." Her face twisted, half anger, half guilt. "You were going to ruin me first," she hissed. "You were going to tell everyone about those designs." "I never did," I said quietly. "I gave you a chance to fix it. You chose to bury me instead." She flinched. For a moment, I thought I saw regret in her eyes. Then she said something I didn't expect. "I did it because I loved you." "Histoire de hair." "What?" "I loved you," she repeated, voice trembling. "But you started pulling away. You were distant, cold. You made me feel small. I panicked. I thought you'd leave me, and I couldn't handle that." I blinked, trying to process it. "So your idea of love," I said slowly, "was to destroy me before I could walk away." Tears welled in her eyes. "I didn't think it would go that far. I just wanted you to hurt a little, just enough to feel what I felt." My chest felt heavy, not from sympathy, but from disbelief. "You destroyed my career," I said. "My reputation, my sanity. You wanted me to feel? Congratulations. I did. Every damn day. For a second, I thought she'd apologize. But instead, she smiled. That same sly smile that once fooled everyone. You always were dramatic, she whispered. That was it. That's when I realized there was no remorse. No listen. No soul. She didn't care about me. She cared about control. I turned to leave, but she grabbed my wrist. Wait, she said sharply. You think this is over? You think just because you got your job back, you've won? People still talk, Evan. They still wonder. Her grip tightened. All it takes is one rumor, one post. I can still ruin you again. That's when I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because I finally saw her for what she was. A snake with no venom left. You can try, I said softly. But this time, you'll burn alone. I walked away, leaving her on that balcony with her champagne glass trembling in her hand. Months passed. Leah disappeared again, moved out of the city, deleted her socials. And for a while, I actually began to heal. Therapy helped. Nate helped. My sister helped. But then, one morning, I got an email from an unknown address. The subject line, remember me? My stomach dropped. Inside were photos of me from months ago, at bars, at work, at home, taken from a distance. And one final line, you took my career, I'll take your piece. That's when I knew she wasn't done. I changed my locks, reported it, even moved apartments. But part of me knew she wouldn't stop until she felt like she'd won. And so I decided to end it. Not violently, not illegally, but completely. I spent weeks tracking down every contact, every colleague, every company she'd applied to since her firing. Using my network, I found out she'd been freelancing under a fake name, Leon Monroe. Same designs, same stolen style. So I sent every proof to her new clients, along with legal documents from the company she'd previously stolen from. Within days, her portfolio was blacklisted. Her name, both real and fake, became toxic in the design world. Then I did something she didn't expect. I sent her one last message. This ends now. No more messages. No more games. You move on, or I'll make sure every employer knows exactly who you are. Your choice. She didn't reply, and for the first time in years, I finally felt the air get lighter. 2 months later, I got a call from Nate. Bro, you're not going to believe this, he said. You remember Leah? I groaned. What about her? She's gone viral. Like, actually viral. Some YouTuber did a designer scandal video about her. Millions of views. I searched it up. Sure enough, her story was everywhere. Ex-designer fakes harassment, steals art, ruins own career. Her face, her name, her lies, all of it, out in the open. And for a long moment, I just sat there, staring at the screen. It didn't make me happy. It didn't make me proud. It just felt like closure. The next morning, I walked outside, coffee in hand, breathing in the cold air. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was running from something. But before I could even take another sip, a small white envelope slid under my apartment door. No address, no stamp, just my name, handwritten. Inside was a single piece of paper. You win, but I'll always haunt you. No signature. And for some reason, instead of fear, I just smiled. Because maybe she's right. Maybe people like Leah never truly go away. They live in your memory, your fear, your scars. But they also remind you to never ignore red flags. To never give your heart to someone who enjoys watching it bleed. Now, 2 years later, I'm in a better place. New job, new city, new peace. But every once in a while, when I pass someone on the street with their perfume, or hear that same soft laugh, I remember how close I came to losing everything. And I remind myself of one truth. Not every monster looks like one. Some smile like they love you, right before they pull the trigger. Because in the end, Leah didn't just teach me about betrayal. She taught me that sometimes burning down the lies is the only way to see who is standing in the smoke with you. My wife betrayed me with my best friend, so I made them regret ever crossing me. You never really know how much someone can break you. until you're standing in the wreckage of the life you thought was real. I'm not the kind of guy who cries easily. I've always believed in keeping it together, composure, calm, logic. But the night I found out my wife was cheating on me with my best friend, I broke. Not loudly, not dramatically, just quietly, like something snapped inside that would never fix itself again. Her name was Hannah. We'd been together for almost 8 years, married for 4. She was my college sweetheart, the kind of woman who could walk into a room and light it up without even trying. I used to think she was my peace, my home. But home doesn't burn you from the inside out. And my best friend, Adam, he'd been with me since high school. We'd gone through everything together. Broke our first bones skateboarding, crashed our first cars, survived our first heartbreaks. He was like a brother to me, or at least I thought he was. It started small, little things I didn't want to believe. Adam started coming around a lot more when I wasn't home. Hannah would mention him randomly like, oh, Adam helped fix the sink, or Adam dropped by for coffee. At first, it didn't bother me. They'd known each other for years, after all. But then, one night, I got home early from work. It was raining, the kind that makes the whole city blur. When I walked in, the lights were low, soft music was playing, and I heard laughter. Her laughter. I froze, because that sound, the way she laughed with him, it wasn't casual. It was intimate, familiar. I walked quietly toward the kitchen. They didn't hear me, and there they were, sitting too close, sharing a glass of wine. His hand was on her knee. Her smile was the one I used to get. I felt my whole body go cold. Hannah. They both jumped like kids caught sneaking candy. Her eyes widened. Evan, you're home early. Adam stood, stammering something about just talking. But the look on their faces said everything words didn't. I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I just walked past them, straight to the bedroom, packed a bag, and left. I stayed at my brother's place for a week. Didn't answer her calls. Didn't answer Adam's either. Then one night, she showed up. It was late, maybe 11 p.m. She was crying, makeup smeared, rain soaking through her jacket. Please, Evan, just hear me out, she begged. I didn't say anything. She went on, it wasn't what you think. It just happened. We were drunk one night, and it was a mistake. That word, mistake. Like tripping over a step or spilling coffee. How many times? I asked quietly. She froze. Evan, please. How many times? Her silence told me everything. That's when something in me shifted. The love? Gone. The pain? Still there. But under it, something darker. I looked her straight in the eye and said, you two deserve each other. Then I closed the door in her face. I filed for divorce the next day. Of course, she tried to fight it. Tried to paint me as the cold, distant husband who drove her into someone else's arms. But I had evidence, texts, photos, timestamps. I'd already gone through her phone before she came to explain. The judge didn't buy her performance. Neither did anyone else once the truth came out. Adam lost his job soon after. Our company didn't exactly tolerate sleeping with a coworker's wife, especially when that coworker was his project manager. And me? I thought I'd feel vindicated. I thought watching them crumble would fix something inside me. But it didn't, because betrayal doesn't just hurt, it rewires you. Months passed. I kept to myself. Worked. Ran. Ate alone. Slept barely. People said time heals. But time doesn't heal what you keep replaying every night before you close your eyes. Then, one day I ran into Adam. I was grabbing coffee on a random Wednesday, and there he was sitting by the window, looking like a ghost of himself. He saw me, froze, then gave a weak smile. Evan, he said. Hey. I stared for a second. You've got some nerve showing your face around here. He sighed. I deserve that. Look, man, I wanted to say I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't fix what you broke, I said. He nodded. I know. I've lost everything. My job, my apartment, her. She left me too, man. Just packed up and disappeared. I paused. She left you? He gave a humorless laugh. Guess cheaters don't make loyal lovers. That line stuck with me long after I walked away. Because deep down, I knew Hannah wasn't done. She'd find someone else to destroy. She always did. A few months later, I found out exactly how far she'd fallen. One of her friends messaged me out of nowhere. "Hey, Evan, you might want to see this." It was a photo. Hannah, drunk, sitting in some bar, clinging to a guy who looked half her age. The caption? "When you lose a husband, but keep the thrill." Classy. At first, I felt nothing. Just a dull numbness. But then, another message popped up. "She's been bad-mouthing you online, too. Saying you were abusive. Just a heads up." That's when something in me snapped. You cheat on me. You destroy my marriage. You ruin my peace. And then you try to play the victim? No, not this time. If she wanted a war, I'd give her one. I started digging. Every lie she told during our marriage. Every manipulation. Every secret. I brought them into the light. I found out she'd cheated before, even before me. Lied about her past. Used people. Took credit for things she didn't do at work. And slowly, carefully, I built a file. Not to send. Not to publish. Just to hold. Because I knew one day she'd try to come back. And when she did, I'd be ready. And right on cue, 6 months later, she did. Her message came out of nowhere. "Evan, I'm sorry. I know I don't deserve a response, but I need to explain. Can we talk?" I didn't answer. Then came another. "Please. I'm not doing well. I miss you." I still didn't answer. Then she called. Again and again. Finally, I picked up. "Evan," she said, her voice trembling. "I made a mistake. I lost everything. I don't know who I am anymore." I stayed silent. She started crying. "Please, I know I can't fix what I did, but can we at least talk? For closure." I almost laughed. Closure. That's what she wanted. "Meet me at the Haven," I said flatly. "Tomorrow, 7 p.m. Her breath caught. "You'll really come?" "Yeah," I said, "but just once." I didn't go there to forgive her. I went there to finish it. The next part was something she'd never see coming. The next day came fast. I didn't sleep, just stared at the ceiling all night, replaying every memory. Her laugh, her lies, the nights I stayed awake wondering why wasn't enough. But this time, it wasn't about pain. It was about control. When the clock hit 6, I got dressed in my calmest outfit. A dark coat, clean shirt, simple watch. The kind of look that says I've moved on, even if you haven't. I arrived at the Haven 15 minutes early. It was a quiet restaurant downtown. Soft lighting, piano music, the smell of wine and rain. I picked the corner table. Back to the wall. Old habits. When Hannah walked in, I almost didn't recognize her. Her once perfect hair looked dull, her posture slouched. She looked tired, not physically but deep down, like her soul had been walking barefoot on glass. She spotted me instantly and froze. For a second, I saw guilt in her eyes. Then hope. That's what people like her always cling to. Hope that maybe the person they broke still cares enough to save them. She walked over slowly, clutching her purse like it was armor. "Hey," she said softly. "Sit," I said. She sat, fidgeted. "You look good," she said. "You don't," I replied flatly. She flinched. I deserve that. Silence stretched between us like barbed wire. Finally, I spoke. "You said you wanted closure. So talk." She nodded, took a shaky breath, and started. I lost everything after you left. My job, my friends. Everyone looked at me like I was some monster. Adam blamed me for everything. Then he left too. I know I hurt you, Evan. I know I did. But I was in a dark place back then. I felt unseen, unloved. I cut her off. "You felt unseen, so you slept with my best friend?" Her lip trembled. "It wasn't about that. I was lonely. You were always working. You didn't look at me the same anymore." I leaned forward, eyes steady. "So you destroyed me to feel seen?" She went quiet. Tears formed, but I didn't feel sympathy anymore. Once upon a time, her tears broke me. Now, they meant nothing. I let her talk about her regrets, her guilt, her so-called growth. And when she finally said, "I wish I could make it right," I smiled. "Maybe you can," I said. She blinked. "What do you mean?" I pulled out my phone and placed it on the table. I want you to say what you just said again. That you cheated. That you lied. That you ruined what we had. She frowned. What? Evan, why? Because you lied about me, I said coldly. Online, you told people I was abusive, that I controlled you. You played victim while I stayed silent. And now you're going to fix that. Her face paled. I didn't think you saw that. I saw everything. I interrupted. Every post, every message, every lie. So, you go to record yourself telling the truth, or I make sure every employer you ever apply to knows exactly who you are. Her breath caught. You wouldn't. I raised an eyebrow. Try me. She hesitated, then looked down at the phone. After a moment, she pressed record. And there it was, her voice trembling but clear. I cheated on my husband. I lied about him. He never hurt me. I did everything. And I regret it. She stopped the recording and slid the phone back. Tears spilled down her cheeks. Are you happy now? I looked her dead in the eyes. No, but I'm done. I stood. She reached out, grabbing my hand. Evan, please. I know I can't fix this, but can't we start over? We were so good once. For the first time that night, I smiled, genuinely. Yeah, I said softly. We were. I pulled my hand away and walked out. I didn't look back. I didn't need to, because the moment I stepped into the night, I felt something shift. Not peace, not yet, but freedom. I walked home through the rain, letting it soak through my clothes. Every drop felt like it was washing her out of my system, piece by piece. When I got home, I deleted her number, blocked her on everything, and sent the recording to her old workplace anonymously, just in case she ever tried to rewrite the story again. She disappeared from my life after that. No more calls, no more messages, just silence. Months later, I got a message from Adam. No apology this time, just 2 words. She's gone. I didn't reply. I later found out she'd left town completely. New city, new name, try and start over. Part of me wanted to be angry that she got to run away. But the other part, the part that had burned for so long, it was finally quiet. I'd done what I needed to do. I didn't destroy her life. She did that herself. All I did was make sure she couldn't destroy mine anymore. It's been 2 years since then. I bought a new place. Smaller, quieter. I still wake up early. Habit from when I used to check if she'd come home. Now I just sit by the window with coffee and watch the sunrise. I won't lie. Sometimes I still miss the idea of her. Not her, the idea of what we were. But love built on lies isn't love. It's a contract of convenience. I've started dating again, slowly, carefully. And the woman I'm seeing now, she's kind, genuine. She listens. She doesn't make me feel like I'm competing for peace. But most of all, she makes me feel safe. I've learned that revenge doesn't always mean explosions or chaos. Sometimes it's quiet, controlled, measured. It's standing tall when they expected you to crawl. And as for Hannah, wherever she is, I hope she finally learned what love isn't. Because love isn't selfish. It isn't manipulation. It isn't betrayal. It's showing up, even when it's hard. It's staying loyal, even when it's boring. It's choosing someone, even when no one's watching. When I think back to that night, I found them together. That shattered version of me who walked out into the rain with his heart in pieces, I realized something. That version of me died that night. And in his place, someone stronger was born. Someone who learned that sometimes losing everything is the only way to find yourself again. And if you're listening to this right now, wondering if the pain ever ends, it does. Slowly, quietly, one sunrise at a time. So stay, breathe, let go of the people who broke you. And never forget, sometimes revenge is just becoming the person they never thought you'd be. If you made it this far, thank you for listening to my story. If it kept you company tonight, make sure to hit that subscribe button, leave a like, and check out the next one. There's more where this came from. My girlfriend hid a terrible secret about her brother. I found out too late. I've always believed love makes people do crazy things, but I never thought I'd be the one left questioning my sanity. My name's Tyler. I'm 29. I met Emily 2 years ago at a mutual friend's engagement party. She was wearing this green dress that somehow made the whole room go silent when she walked in. I know it sounds cheesy, but that's exactly how it felt. Like everything else faded. We hit it off instantly. She had that rare kind of warmth that makes you want to talk about things you've never told anyone. Within a week, we were texting nonstop. Within a month, I was spending more time at her apartment than my own. Emily was different. She wasn't loud or flashy. She was grounded, kind, the kind of person who'd help a stranger on the street without hesitation. I fell hard fast, but from the start, there was one thing that didn't quite add up: her brother. His name was Ben. He was around her age, early 30s. She said he lived a few hours away, but he visited sometimes. Every time he was in town, Emily seemed off. Nervous, jumpy, like she was hiding something. When I asked about it, she brushed it off. He's just protective, she'd say with a forced laugh. He's been through a lot. At first, I didn't push. I respected her privacy. But then little things started happening that didn't make sense. One night, we were watching a movie at her place. Her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, then quickly flipped it over. I caught a glimpse of a screen, Ben Red Heart, followed by a message preview that read, "I miss you already." My stomach twisted. Hey, I said carefully, trying not to sound accusatory. "You and Ben seem close?" Her expression froze for half a second, then softened. "Oh yeah, he's just really affectionate. We grew up depending on each other a lot." I wanted to believe her. I really did. But something about her tone, that tiny flicker of panic, stuck in my mind. A few weeks later, she asked me to house sit for her while she went to visit family. I agreed. We trusted each other by then, or at least I thought we did. That weekend, curiosity got the better of me. I wasn't proud of it, but something deep down screamed that I was missing something huge. Her apartment was neat, almost too neat, but tucked inside her nightstand drawer was a stack of old photos. The first one showed Emily, younger, smiling in front of a lake. Her arm was wrapped around a guy who looked familiar. Ben. Only the way they were looking at each other wasn't how siblings looked at each other. In the next photo, they were sitting on a couch, her legs draped across his lap, his hand on her thigh. I froze. The third photo made my stomach turn. They were kissing. Full-on kissing. I dropped the stack and stepped back like I'd touched fire. My chest tightened, so hard it hurt. I didn't even know how long I stood there staring at the photos on the floor. My mind raced. Was it an old relationship she didn't want to talk about? Maybe they'd dated before, and she just never told me? But that didn't explain calling him her brother. What the hell was going on? I confronted her the next day when she came back. She walked in, smiling like nothing was wrong. I handed her the photos silently. The color drained from her face. "Tyler, I can explain." I cut her off. "Explain what? Why you been lying to me for a year? Why the guy you call your brother is actually your boyfriend?" Tears filled her eyes. "It's not what you think." "Then tell me what it is." I snapped. She sank onto the couch, shaking. "Ben and I, we were together. For years. Before you. But it was toxic. He was controlling, obsessive. When I left him, he lost it. He followed me everywhere, wouldn't stop calling. So I told people he was my brother. It was the only way I could keep him close without letting him ruin my reputation. It was stupid, I know, but I was scared." Her voice cracked, and she covered her face with her hands. I wanted to believe her. I really did. But something about the story didn't line up. "If you're so scared of him," I said slowly, "why is he still in your life? Why are you texting him, 'I miss you already'?" Her eyes darted away. "He gets angry if I don't reply. I've been trying to keep him calm until I figure out what to do." That explanation almost made sense. Almost. But my gut said she wasn't telling me everything. I told her I needed space. Packed my things and left. For the next few weeks, she blew up my phone. Calls, texts, apologies. "I love you. Please don't give up on me. He's gone now. I blocked him. You're the only one I want." Eventually, I caved. Because I still loved her. Because part of me wanted to believe that she was just a victim caught in something complicated. We met up at a park one afternoon. She looked wrecked, pale, exhausted, eyes red from crying. I told him to leave me alone, she said softly. He didn't take it well. But it's over now. I swear. I nodded slowly. Okay, but if I find out you lied again. I didn't, she said quickly, grabbing my hand. I promise. And for a while, felt like we were okay again. She started smiling more, cooking dinners again. We laughed, watched movies, tried to rebuild what we had. Until the night, everything fell apart for good. It was around midnight when I heard her phone buzz. She was asleep next to me. Normally I wouldn't check, but this time something felt off. That weird sixth sense that whispers something's wrong. I looked at the screen. It was a text from Ben Redhart. I saw you with him again. You think I won't come back? My heart dropped. I opened her messages, something I never thought I'd do again, and scrolled. The thread was long. Dozens of messages from him. Some angry, some pleading. And then I saw hers. I told you, he means nothing to me. You know you're the only one I'll ever love. Just don't come here tonight. Please. The room spun. I stared at her, sleeping peacefully beside me, as every ounce of trust I'd rebuilt shattered again. I didn't wake her, didn't yell, didn't cry. I just got up, grabbed my things quietly, and left. I drove around aimlessly for hours, trying to make sense of it, trying to convince myself there had to be some logical reason. But when I finally parked and opened my phone again, I saw one last message from her. Where are you? Please come back before he does. That's when I realized Ben wasn't just some ex or controlling figure. He was still around, still watching. And Emily was lying to both of us. The next morning, I went to her apartment. The door was cracked open. My pulse spiked instantly. Inside, the place was a mess, furniture overturned, a vase shattered, her phone lying on the floor. No sign of her. I called out her name. No answer. There was a single sticky note on the counter. It just said, I'm sorry. Don't come looking. That was 3 months ago. She's been missing ever since. And last week, I got a message from an unknown number. She told me everything, Tyler. You should have stayed out of it. I didn't sleep for 3 days after getting that text. Every sound made me jump. Every knock on the door made my heart slam in my chest. I went to the police, of course. Told them everything. The fake brother, the photos, the disappearance. They said they'd look into it. But I could tell by the way they exchanged looks that they didn't believe half of what I said. Missing adult. No evidence of abduction. Just another case that would fade into a stack of forgotten files. But I couldn't let it go. Because the more I replayed things in my head, the more details I started noticing that I'd ignored before. Like how Emily never wanted me to meet her family. How she'd always go quiet when I asked where her parents lived. Or that one time she slipped up and said, Ben always hated Dad for what he did to me. When I asked what she meant, she changed the subject instantly. It wasn't adding up, so I started digging. I found an old envelope in my glove compartment, one she'd accidentally left months ago. Inside was a letter with a different last name. Emily Rhodes, not Emily Parker, like she told me. That's when I realized I didn't even know who she really was. I searched her name online. Nothing obvious at first. Then, after scrolling deep through old news articles, I found one that made my stomach drop. Local man, 33, found dead after domestic dispute. Girlfriend missing. March 7th, 2021. The photo showed a man lying on a gurney, covered by a sheet. And right below it, a picture of Emily. Same eyes, same smile, same woman. Except the article called her Emily Rhodes, not Parker. And the dead man's name? Benjamin Cole. Ben. I reread it 100 times. The article said she and Ben had been in a relationship for years. Neighbors reported screaming, broken glass, police visits. One night it escalated. He was found dead. She vanished. They'd ruled it unresolved. So how the hell had she resurfaced with a new name, a new life, and found me? My hands were shaking as I called the detective listed in the article. He didn't answer. I left a message, rambling about how I'd been dating her, how she'd gone missing again, how I'd gotten a threatening text. The next day, I got a call back. A deep voice said, "Mr. Harris, this case was closed a long time ago. You shouldn't get involved." Then he hung up. That's when I realized something much darker was going on. That night, I went back to Emily's apartment. The door was still sealed with police tape, but I broke it open. I didn't care anymore. Inside, the air was stale, heavy with the faint smell of her perfume. I searched every drawer, every cabinet, desperate for anything that could explain what had happened. And then I found it, a small, locked box under her bed. I pried it open with a knife. Inside were letters, dozens of them, all addressed to B. The handwriting was hers. "I can't stop thinking about you. You said it would be different this time. If he finds out, I'll lose everything. I hate that you still control me, even from the other side." I froze. From the other side? What the hell did that mean? My skin crawled. At the bottom of the box was a USB drive. I plugged it into my laptop, right there on her floor. One video file. Turitold. Benolulvonashtelostnight MP. The screen flickered. Emily sat on the edge of her bed, pale, tear-streaked, whispering into the camera. "If anyone finds this, I need you to know I didn't mean for any of it to happen. Ben wouldn't leave me alone. I told him I was done. He said if I ever tried to leave again, he'd make sure no one else could have me. He came over that night. We fought. He fell. I didn't mean to." Her voice cracked, but then he got up. He smiled. He said, "You'll never get rid of me." And then She stopped mid-sentence, eyes darting toward the door like she heard something. The video cut off. I just sat there, heart pounding, staring at the frozen frame of her terrified face. That's when I heard something behind me. A faint creak from the hallway. I spun around, nothing. Just darkness. But then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. You shouldn't have watched that. Every muscle in my body locked up. I bolted out of that apartment and didn't stop running until I reached my car. Over the next few days, strange things started happening. I'd find my front door unlocked, even though I knew I'd locked it. My mail would be opened. One night, I woke up to the sound of my TV turning on by itself, playing that same video of Emily, looping the same sentence over and over. "You'll never get rid of me." I tore the USB out of the laptop and threw it out the window. But the next morning, it was sitting on my kitchen counter again. That's when I realized I was in way over my head. Desperate, I reached out to one of Emily's old friends, a woman named Claire I found through social media. At first, she didn't want to talk. But when I told her everything, she finally agreed to meet at a cafe. When she saw me, her face went pale. "You shouldn't have said her name," she whispered. "What do you mean?" She told me before she disappeared that if anyone started asking questions, something bad would happen. I leaned forward. "Claire, please. What do you know about her and Ben?" She hesitated. "Ben wasn't just her boyfriend," she said finally. "He was obsessed, controlling. She tried to leave him twice, but he always found her. After he died, she said he still talked to her." "Talked to her? You mean like he never left?" she said, voice trembling. She said sometimes she'd wake up and hear him breathing beside her. I didn't know what to say. She thought she was cursed, Claire continued, that he'd made some kind of promise before he died, that they'd always be together no matter what. I thought she was just traumatized, but then she vanished. Claire looked around nervously and whispered, "If she's come back into your life, you need to run." I didn't believe in curses or ghosts. But that night, I woke up to the smell of her perfume. The same one she always wore, jasmine and vanilla. And I swear to God, I heard her voice. "Tyler," soft, right next to my ear. I turned on the light. No one was there, but on my pillow was her necklace. The one I'd seen in those photos with Ben, a silver pendant shaped like an infinity symbol. I'd never seen it since she vanished. My hands were shaking as I picked it up. On the back was an engraving I'd never noticed before. Forever means forever. I couldn't take it anymore. I packed a bag and left town. I drove for hours, no destination, just needing to be away. At a motel 2 states over, I finally crashed from exhaustion. When I woke up, there was a folded note on the nightstand. No one had been inside. It said, "You can't outrun what you love." And next to it, a fresh jasmine flower. The next week, I got a call from an unknown number again. I hesitated, then answered. A woman's voice whispered, "You should have believed me." Static, then silence. I checked the call log. No number listed. Just the word Emily. That's when I knew whatever this was, it wasn't over. I went back home, determined to end it. I reopened that cursed USB drive one last time. But this time, the video was different. Emily wasn't crying anymore. She was smiling. "You came back," she said softly. "I knew you would. You always do." I tried to close the laptop, but it wouldn't shut. The image just flickered, her face twisting into something wrong. "Now we can finally be together, Tyler." The screen went black. The lights in my apartment flickered. And then I heard it again, that same whisper behind me. Forever means forever. That was 6 months ago. I moved again, changed my number. But every night when it rains, I still smell her perfume. Sometimes I wake up and see that silver pendant on my pillow. And sometimes I hear two voices in the dark. Hers and his, laughing. So if you ever meet someone who seems perfect, someone who swears their ex is just a brother, listen to your gut. Because some lies don't stay buried. And some people, dead or alive, don't ever let go. Don't forget to subscribe if you made it this far. More true stories, betrayals, and midnight confessions await you. You never know which one might be real.